Hey folks, welcome to today's coverage of USA versus Ireland. Welcome to the show and welcome everyone to the match. This should be a fun match. This screen shows you a little bit the match format and how it's going to work. Basically, we've got 12 players for each team. Each team will play 4 games. Each match will be 4 games at a time controller gaming 15 plus 10. The matches have actually started. We're going to get to the live coverage as soon as team captain for USA, Pete Karagianis, gets sorted with one missing player here. So it looks like they're all in, Pete. I see your missing player is playing. So it looks like we've got 10 out of 12 of the matches started, and as Pete is doing captain duties, he's tracking down the missing players. So as you can see, there on the screen are the lineups for the matches. We're going to try and keep this scoreboard up to date as we possibly can as games finish. The format is going to be a player needs to score 2.5 points out of 4 to get a point for their team. If a match finishes in a tie 2-2, that will score half a point for each team. And the first team to get to 6.5 points will be declared the winner. If we end up tied at the end of that, I believe the playoff is a bullet playoff, and teams will nominate a player to represent them in the bullet playoff. So we're hoping to get to the live coverage of the games very soon. I think I see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games out of 12 now. We're still missing one game. We can't work out who's not started yet. So we will get to the live coverage as soon as possible. If you're in the chat, you can type !info to get a little bit of info about the event. And also you can type !get US chess. And I'll mention this at the start of the broadcast here. US Chess is currently doing a membership drive campaign, whereas if you go to one of the various social media sites that we have, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, use the hashtag #GetUSChess, fill out the I'm a US Chess member because, and fill that out, and you get your chance to win. A prize, either a gift certificate or a tap and set chess clock. So it looks like board 12, I'm hearing, Pete, hasn't started. Akash says he's waiting for his opponent to to accept the challenge. Okay, so we're in. It looks like we are all set and ready to go. All right, so I'm gonna bring Pete in here, and so we'll say hi to Pete here. Hi, Pete. How you doing?
Good morning, Chris. I'm doing great. You know, as you mentioned, I'm also serving today as both match organizer and captain. So getting everybody started, getting everybody underway was a little bit of a fun challenge to do while also streaming. But we are underway with all 12 games, and I could not be more excited.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I see there we have looks like board 9 is up on your screen. Shane Melaugh versus Gunnar Andersen.
Right.
Let's get right into the action. I know we've been sort of slowly following that while we've been bringing everything up live. How's that looking?
It looks pretty, it's an interesting start. Gunnar has used up some time in the opening, but I feel like he's got a slight pull here, and maybe a little more than a slight pull. There's a lot of pressure on the square f7. I guess I feel like White's position is slightly more harmonious at the moment than Black's. So I'm feeling good about our board 9 game. But the one that I've actually been paying attention to is, I believe this is board 3 or 4, board 4. Karl Boor playing the black piece as FIDE master Karl Boor and accepting a really, really interesting pawn structure right off the bat. So let's take a look at how we got here, because this one was fun from the beginning. So Karl started off with knight c6 in response to knight f3, which, this is not exactly one of the main lines, let's say. D4, D6. We could have seen maybe D5 transposing into some kind of Shigoran type setup, but we saw D6. And white says, okay, well, if you're going to let me hit the knight, I will. And Karl goes knight e5. So, Karl is known a little bit for his taste for unusual opening setups. And this one, I think, definitely qualifies. Immediately, moving the knight twice, accepting doubled central pawns, which, as we can see in our game position, after e4, e6, white actually ends up checking and taking the pawn, and those doubled pawns are there to stay. Now, doubled pawns, particularly in the center, can be bad, but one thing in Karl's favor, at least at the moment, and I believe it is still true in the game position. Let's get there and find out. Yeah, one thing that is still true is at least these pawns are not exposed on an open file where they can be hit. So that was a really interesting one to start off with, I thought. But perhaps actually, Chris, it might be a good idea to take a step back and talk a little bit about how the match started and where this all came from.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and find out how this match did come up and how it got going. So who approached who and who said yes and who said, how did we get the teams going and all that stuff?
Yes, well, we were asked to the dance by Ireland. So they very politely came over and approached us and asked us if we'd be willing to play an international friendly match. And we agreed. So, one of the ideas of the match, at least from organizing from the American side, was we wanted to try to have as fair a match as possible. So you'll notice our team when we put up our team graphic there of our players. Our goal was to try to match the Irish team in rating strength. Obviously you're not going to see Fabiano, for example, playing for Team USA this time around.
I think he was a little busy this morning anyway, but
yeah, he might have had a couple things going on. Whatever. He could have freed up for our Irish match, I'm sure. But no, our goal was to try our best to match their team in rating strength and get some really good competitive chess across all 12 boards. And I think we've done that. We've got every board is a matchup of a rating range within 75 to 100 points. So this should be a really exciting match, I think. I think we're going to see some fireworks, as is typical in rapid chess. And yeah, I'm excited.
For sure. Yeah.
I've even got my Team USA jersey on. It's kind of hard to tell, but yeah.
Yeah, as much as I work for US Chess and I represent USA on the in the world chess stage, I'm still English at heart, so it's very tough for me. I'm sort of,
so where do your allegiances lie? Where do your allegiances lie today?
I'm just here to have some fun and watch the chess and help the stream go well, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
fair enough.
I enjoy watching chess. So and the game that we were looking at was interesting. Who's this that we pulled up?
So I have to confess, now that the match is underway, I think I can make this confession. I kind of tried to pull in a couple of ringers into our match here. So I'll highlight a couple of those games. Let's go through those and highlight them. These are boards where our player on this board, I feel, is pretty strong, especially in a rapid format.
Right.
So here we've got NM Julian Proleko, as you can see, very strong rapid player. His FIDE rating's only in the 2100s, but he's probably significantly stronger than that.
Yep.
And he's got a position here that, honestly, from a positional standpoint, looks pretty decent. So white, of course, has a passed pawn with nothing in its way, but black is going to be able to establish a blockade of that passed pawn, either with knight or bishop. He can shut that down. I actually kind of think bishop is the way to go. Normally we teach young players that you want to blockade pawns with knights.
Yeah.
But in this particular position, if you can picture a bishop on d5, in fact, I might have even thought about putting it there last move. Maybe he was worried about something like bishop c4, bishop b5, maybe even something really goofy. But you have bishop takes f3, so you shouldn't be worried about that.
Yeah.
I really like the look of a bishop sitting here, sort of all-powerful, aiming both directions. Looks kind of nice to me.
I guess in the interim, the knight was attacked on c6, right? So hence he played knight e7?
Yeah. I suppose I should look at tactics before I think about positional stuff, right? Of course, bishop d5 is just met by rook takes c6. Minor technical detail, Chris. Minor technical detail.
It's okay. I'm just here for the stream, remember?
Right. Hey, you know what? I'll also add. I'm just getting going. I got to get my chess juices flowing, right? That's not how it works.
Yep.
So anyway, I think that'll blockade eventually, and then this passed pawn won't be as dangerous, and we'll see. We can slowly kind of build pressure.
Yeah, so knight e7 is a sensible move, obviously, to get the knight from being attacked and to put another blockading piece on that d5 push.
Right.
Should it ever come and free white of that isolated queen's pawn, I'm sure.
You can kind of see, like so white plays a good response. Actually, we'll talk about that in a minute. But even from this position, you can kind of begin to see the outlines of what black wants to do. Wants to blockade the pawn. My personal taste is with the bishop. And then he wants to start slowly applying pressure to that potentially weak pawn. I see moves like maybe knight f5, rook can come to e8 and also add some pressure along the e file. You can kind of see what white wants to do in this position. So black, in my opinion, quite correctly plays actively with knight e5. And one of the main points of this move is that, you're going to try to play bishop f3 and control those squares. And of course, black does what we expect and plays bishop d5 anyway, blockading the pawn.
Yeah.
On bishop f3, I fully expect him to probably just capture that bishop and then go knight d5.
Yeah,
or potentially... go ahead.
That's the idea, right? So if you're black here, you want to be trading pieces and going into this ending with that weak pawn on d4, right? I believe that's...
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think black wants to trade. Well, that's certainly one way to go about it. And I think also, if you look at the minor pieces, right? I think out of all the minor pieces, black wants to leave white with this bishop on e3.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of acting as a classic tall pawn at the moment. So I think we'll see something like that progress in this game. I was going to also mention after bishop f3, you could also think about playing queen d5. So let's say bishop f3, bishop takes, knight takes. And I would also at least think about playing queen d5 with sort of the same setup idea of having a blockading piece on d5 and a knight on f5. And if we can picture that queen on d5, it's a centralized queen, right? We know those are always very lovely.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on. I've got another ringer. Can we go through our ringers? Maybe we should do that, right? Here's our team's ringers.
Are the Irish folks tuning into us? Are they finding out who the ringers are? So it's a little late in the day to be worried about that, I guess.
That's a good point. I would say, though, that I do think this will be a fascinating match. So we've got another one here, and this is, wow, this is a messy position right off the bat. So this is a game between
Killian, Delaney,
National Master Gopal Menon, right? And I believe he's I don't see him listed as an FM on our chart here, but he's certainly got the rating for it. Killian Delaney,
right?
Over 2,300 FIDE.
Yep.
And Gopal from the American side, mid 2,200s FIDE. His US chess is almost 2,400, and he's got a blitz rating in the 2,500s. And if we just pop a look at his chess.com here, you'll see his blitz rating 2805. So it's very strong and fast time controls. And I'm kind of hoping that that's going to have an effect. Let's see how we got here, though. This position looks like a mess. Can you guess the opening from this one?
Some sort of King's Indian?
King's Indian is my guess. Yeah, maybe a modern defense if white played e4 on move one. So let's see how we got here. I'm interested. Apart from being a blitz expert, I know Gopal also knows opening theory pretty well. So let's see what happened. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is probably going to be a King's Indian style game, right? Yeah. Yep, there we go. Okay. And maybe some kind of a same-ish. I saw a white pawn on f3. Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. And white says, let the party begin, right? Very, very sensible response to a move like knight a6. White hasn't committed to castling, so let's see what we can do. Knight c5. Yeah, there's f3, so not a samish. h5. And actually, I kind of like this move. He's sort of forcing white to commit, not sitting back. And if you can picture this pawn coming to g5 with the pawn still on h6,
yeah,
right? That could create a pretty major problem. Let me see if I can bring up a live analysis board here. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe this is foolish to do. Let's try that. Hey, it worked. So yeah, I mean, h5, I kind of like this move, actually. I wonder if the engine does. The engine does like this move. Okay, so h5, I kind of like this move. The point is, if we had played, let's just make out, sometimes I tell my students, don't develop just to develop, right? A move like bishop d7 is just you're developing a piece just for the sake of development. Try to think of a reason or a scheme for your developing moves. So let's say black had done that and developed just to develop here. And now we might see, I don't know if g5 immediately is necessarily smart, but I just want to show the point. I'm going to make another bad move for black. And you can see the idea here, right? So with this h-pawn unable to move, black is just going to kind of try to roll, or excuse me, white is going to just try to roll black off the board.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
So to that end, let's go back to our game here, if I can find it. To that end, I really like the move h5, because h5 is, of course, just preventing that idea from white, which makes sense.
Oh, just quickly, it looks like we actually have a result already.
Oh,
here, right?
wow.
Looks like
Yes,
Coach
okay, let's
Gunnar,
see. Wow.
Coach Gunnar Andersen did win the first game of their match.
This escalated really quickly. Gunnar also, as you can see, just an incredibly strong blitz player. So again, a strong player in fast time controls. This was the first game we looked at, right?
Yes, it was.
And we left off with it somewhere around here, where I said, you know, white's got a little bit of pressure, his position feels more harmonious, and then we come back like 2 minutes later and the game's over. So let's see what happened to end that game so quickly. And hey, does that mean that Team USA has taken an early lead?
That does mean that Team USA has taken an early lead, yeah. Now, what's the process for when someone finishes a game? Do they start immediately? Do they contact each other? Do they, you know, what? How does this work? Because I know they started early. This was the first game to start, and it started about 10 minutes before we're actually due to kick off here. So what's the process now?
Yeah, Gunnar and Shane started, as you mentioned, early. So the Irish organizer, Jerry Graham, and I have been in close contact. We really wanted to, with this match, keep it more friendly, you know, as a feel of just, hey, we're going to have some fun. We're going to play some chess between the two countries. So we've allowed the players to be pretty informal with their match play. And we've offered some guidance of, you know, each game, if you want it, if you feel you need it, communicate with your opponent, take a 5-minute break, and then start round 2.
Right.
It is a best of 4. So as soon as somebody gets to 2.5 points in the match, they've won the match.
So they won't necessarily need to play the 4th game if they don't need to do that. Correct.
Yeah. If you're in game 3 and you've got 3 points or 2.5 points already, that's it.
Yep.
So Coach Gunnar Andersen from Colorado already has 1 point. He only needs 1.5 more to win that match. And as you can see, there we go. They've started game 2.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye on that. That could be an early boon to the US teams.
So we're being asked in the chat. So I got 2 things. Someone's asking how our board 1's doing, Atulya Shetty.
Yes, let's check in with him.
And then also we do have a bunch of Eric Rosen fans in the chat as well. So I assume we'll have to visit Eric's game at some stage.
Yeah, we definitely should. Eric was originally going to be streaming his games today, but he emailed me at the last moment. He is away from home and doesn't have the best Wi-Fi, so we're going to follow his games. Let's do that. Let's do both. So here we've got a London system between, I believe this is Alex Lopez, right?
Yeah. And it looks like this
who is also a popular streamer.
Yeah, a couple of international masters playing each other. Is Alex streaming himself doing it?
I think he is today, actually. Okay. Yes. So that will be fun to watch the replays of. So this is a line I actually know a little bit about. And one of the ideas of playing an early knight d2 is that if black goes queen b6, queen b3, c4, queen takes, pawn takes with the exposed a file, you can actually play a3 and get the rook out of the way right away, and b4 will never be an issue.
Right.
So that's one of the points of an early knight d2.
Yeah, this is a London system, right? And I think I watched some... Aman Hambleton did some training videos on chess.com on this system here, and I think I managed to peek in at those at some stage.
You know, it's really exploded in popularity recently, the London has.
Yeah.
I remember when I was developing as a chess player, like late 1990s, 1999 to like 2004, my coach taught me the London, and it felt like, I mean, this is purely anecdotal, right? But it felt like all the tournaments I went to, I was one of the very few London players at the time. The few players who had that in their opening repertoire.
Right.
And now it's you know, it's omnipresent. It's everywhere. You know, the top guys are playing it. Grishik, Kamsky, Carlson. And of course, we're seeing it at almost every level. So it's really become quite the popular setup. So castle, okay, bishop d3. It's interesting to see knight h5 here. I mean, I think maybe he wants to play f5 and restrict the e4 break.
Right.
Normally we would see knight h5 in a scenario where the knight can actually trade for the bishop.
Yeah.
But here the bishop has a cubbyhole. So my guess is that he's playing knight h5 to control the pawn break e4. Bishop h2, yeah. c4. Okay, grabbing tempo first on the bishop. And by the way, that's actually an important little nuance, right? Because if we had played... it's not going to let me do that. Let's try this again. If we had played f5 immediately, so if you can picture f5 happening in this position, then white might play d takes c5 and open the center. And, that's not all that ideal. With the inability to push this pawn to e5, it could become backwards, and that could present some problems. So a nice little nuance here. Atulya plays pawn c4 first, and then only after closing the center does he play pawn f5. Or not closing the center, but preventing this capture, opening the center. So very logically, white reacts by trying to open it back up. b5, a4. Yeah, this is where things start to get a little interesting and messy, right? So of course, black doesn't want to play a6 here because a takes b5, and there's a little pin problem. So he has to sort of initiate some tactical play. He plays b4.
Yeah.
Now, I think the idea is that if you take on b4, so I'll bring up an analysis board to show some of these lines. Oops, that's not how to bring up an analysis board. This is. Let's head back to there. This is kind of nice. If you take on b4, a lot of my students will always just want to make whatever capture they see. But I think here black doesn't make any capture, right? Black plays this.
Right.
And it's very uncomfortable for white. The knight is either going to get stuck looking very silly, or if it goes to f1, it's prevented castling, and of course we can recapture on b4 either way, grabbing our pawn back. So let's get back to our game. And then we have to look at Eric's game too, right?
Yep.
So after b4 takes, again, we can see that same idea. Knight b1, bishop b4, and it's very similar. Although the knight in this instance, of course, can come back out in a number of ways. Castle. Wow. I kind of like black's position here. And so white, yeah, probably correctly gives away the exchange, or at least offers to give away the exchange. And I think black also quite correctly refuses to take it. Because if we can picture a position like this, if black takes and that pawn ends up on c6, that pawn is going to be a real thorn in black's side, right?
Yeah.
So take, rook over. And yeah, here's the present game position. This should be an exciting one to keep an eye on, I think. But let's take a look at Eric's game, shall we?
Yep.
Chat's probably losing their mind. Go look at the Rosen game, right?
Yeah. No, actually not so bad.
Okay, good. So our pacing feels pretty all right. Oh, wow. Okay, so what's going on here?
And just one quick note as well. Looks like USA did pick up another win on board 3.
Okay, very good. So we'll check in with that game as soon as we see what's going on with Eric. So we have a material imbalance here. I mean, a quick count. We've got a rook, bishop, and pawn against a queen, right?
Now, quick
1, 2, 3,
question
4,
for
5,
you,
6, 7.
Pete. How do the colors work in the game? So I see USA was black on 1 and black on 2. Did the players just randomly choose themselves what the colors were for the match?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
With the spirit of having a friendly competition here, we just kind of let them play. And of course, they are going to have two blacks, 2 whites during the match.
Sure.
But yeah, the colors were up to the players.
Okay.
So this is a fascinating position. Actually, I counted wrong. It's 2 pawns. So it's a rook, bishop, and 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A rook, bishop, and 2 pawns against a queen, which is probably surprisingly balanced. Important to note here that white cannot capture on e5, I don't think, because of rook f to d8, and we would have a major back rank problem. Yeah. The bishop on d3 would be pinned to
Right.
A
It would force bishop e2, and then you're
Rook
infiltrating with the
d2.
rooks on the d file, and yeah, you get
Right.
queen a4 or somewhere. Just you got to keep on that d1 square.
Actually, yeah. So that would be. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at that real quick. I feel like there's got to be some punishing final blow here. I mean, rook d2 just jumps out to me. I wonder if it's worth, like, should we consider starting with even this move? Bishop f5, because if you sack the exchange, well, actually, maybe sacking the exchange is all right. Yeah. And then you just play something like that.
Get some lift for the king, yeah.
Yeah, or like that might be more sensible. Okay, so let's see. But rook d2 is also looking very nice. Rook d2. Where do we put the queen here? Maybe it's got to go to...
Well, you definitely can't go to b3. So it's either a4 or...
Oh, yeah, b3 has that minor technical difficulty again.
It's either a4 or b1. So you got to stay on the d1 square, right?
Let's see if we can find the punishing blow here.
Putting it there just seems so bad, right? There must be... Is there like a bishop c4 or something? I guess the idea is if white can get a bishop and a rook and something else for the queen, then...
Right.
You're back to even again. But
I think we're actually overlooking something really straightforward in this position, which I was thinking about in some other variation, but I just completely overlooked here. And the point is, this rook is on very shaky territory.
Right. It's got to
if
stay
it
on
wants
the
to
file.
Right. So what if we just play something like that? And so the point here is, if the rook vacates the e-file, which it can do, and whatever, just pick a square, right? Now the queen must stay connected to this bishop. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's no way to make that happen. And cover d1 at the same time. So you've got queen rook d1 coming at some stage, right?
And this could be a fascinating way to see a different material shift, where now we've just got two bishops for the rook. The problem is, of course, we've also got a pawn, and the two bishops are far superior to the rook. So this is a really fascinating game. Let's keep an eye on that one.
Okay.
But I'm personally very curious to see how we won our second game.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on this one. Let's see how we won our second game. Okay. So here we've got, on the American side, Stephen Wang. And for Ireland, he's playing Tom O'Gorman. So let's see what happened.
This was Tianqi. Yeah, this is his name, Stephen.
Oh, Tianqi. Sorry, okay. Tianqi Wang. And that's mate.
That is a mate, and I don't see how you stop that.
I don't see how you stop it either. So mate typically wins the game. Look at this, Chris. Look at the time. Can you see the time on the clock on the stream?
Yeah, I can.
He essentially gained 2 minutes 19 seconds throughout the course of this game.
Yep.
My guess is this was probably some preparation and a variation he knew very well. And something went very wrong here. Yeah. Oh, and it's probably right here.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
The material was even at the end, so I wondered if there was just some nasty little trick at the end there that caused the issue. Because they both had a rook, knight, and 5 pawns, but obviously white was much more active and created the mating net. But
yeah, good point. So let's see exactly what happened. I mean, typically I don't allowing something like this. Now there's no direct follow up. I think queen b3. I think we can just parry with d5. So there's no direct follow up to knight g5. Of course, the point is on king h8, you could at least grab the exchange. And for our players who haven't seen this pattern before, this is a really good one to know. You have to take the knight here, because if you step over into this discovery, I mean, first of all, you're hanging the queen. But for extra style points, you can also play... wait, does this work here? No, this doesn't work. No, I was going to show, of course, the famous...
You got knight takes. Oops.
Brain is still warming up, but this would be a horrific blunder. Yeah. Which reminds me of a famous chess saying, and I don't know if it's like an old Russian proverb or who knows what, but if you can play a fancy mate in 5 or take the free queen, take the free queen.
Yes.
So anyway, but of course this can easily be parried by just d5 as well.
Right.
Okay, so you're right. Let's see how we won this game. So I'm going to have to go back to our live board here.
Yeah, we can just
Bishop c8. I've gotten off the game somehow, and it won't let me go back.
Oh,
that's a problem.
Pull up a different game and then pull that one up again.
Okay, let's try that. Yeah, so here we go. No, I'm still stuck there.
Still stuck on that? I wonder if it overwrites it with your analysis or something.
I think it must have. Yeah, I think it must have. Okay, well, we won that one.
Well, we got to see the mate.
To it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to see the nice little mate. You know what? I'm going to stick on this game because look at the time on the clock.
I see this. So they're both living on the 10-second increment. And we still have those... this was where we had the double pawns in the center, but now we got the C pawn made it from C7 to D6 to support them a little bit.
Right.
So.
You know, one note, and I always tell this to my students too, double pawns are usually not great, but they're not always terrible. In particular, double E pawns can serve the function of taking away a lot of central squares, right? So like throughout the middle game, these pawns, as long as they're not exposed and potentially targets, can actually be kind of nice in some scenarios because they prevent the opponent's pieces from occupying central squares. And as you pointed out, really important for this endgame, Karl, FIDE Master Karl Boor with black, was actually able to connect his C-pawn to those isolated pawns.
Yeah.
Right? So he was able to...
So his problem here is going to be, I mean, is he going to have to play bishop c6 and just anchor that b5 pawn? I'm assuming knight c3 is coming to put more pressure on b5 at some stage.
Yeah, right. I mean, in this position, it's hard to really like black, even though he's holding on to everything. These pawns are incredibly weak, and you can already see here, right? Black is going to be the one responding to pressure, and white is going to be the one applying pressure. Can I say, is it weird to say that both colors sort of have a bad bishop in this position? I mean, white's is clearly superior, right? Because it's applying pressure to the pawn b5. Well, but it's also got...
It looks like he took on c4, and I was thinking that was a little double-edged. Even though you get this d5 push, I don't know if I'd want to give white the 2 against 1 on the queen side there.
Yeah, this definitely fits Karl's MO though. Like he likes to play for activity. He doesn't want to just sit there and defend. You know, he wants to have something to do.
Sure.
And on the plus side, you know, he has the opportunity here if he so chooses to play d4 and, you know, gain a protected passed pawn for all time.
Yeah.
And he does, yeah. And I was about to say I think he should as well.
It could be dislodged by an f4 push at some stage, but very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're right though. I really worry about this 2 versus 1. I mean, that can be a major problem later in the game. Especially if we can picture this knight. If this knight ever can find its way to the square c5 somehow.
The other problem with that is now that our knight is forever anchored to that a6 pawn, right? So we can't sort of get rid of that a6 pawn. And the bishop on d3 can do a double duty, really, attacking that pawn and also covering all aspects of the board. Whereas the knight on c7 just has to sit there. You can't really get involved in anything else that might be going on.
And actually, we can kind of see the problem with black's position now is this is also going to be weak. You're going to have to play king f6.
Yeah.
And again, of course, Karl goes directly for activity.
Right. Well, he went to counterattack the a3 pawn, so
keeping the knight out
and keep the knight out after the trade.
So I just want to go back because this is an interesting point.
Man, if there was a way to trap that bishop in there, it looked like.
Yeah, the bishop on a4. I actually kind of think Karl shouldn't have played d4 here, now that I look at it, because white's never going to take this, right?
No, I don't think so. But you might want to stop the king from getting into e3. So, I mean, it also stops the white king reaching a more active square at some stage. But I guess you can always push d4 at some stage to kick it off.
Right, and just fork as well.
Right.
Okay, let's get back to the game action. We're very low on time for both players.
Right.
I don't see a way for either. Like, how does this white king enter to make threats? How does this black king enter to make threats? Where's the way in? Right? How do you continue to improve here? Boy, that's not a move I expected, because now, of course, another protected pass pawn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to make sure you push that at the right time. But that means the black king does have to stay over in that area somewhere, right? But e4 pawn is very weak now for white.
You know, this is kind of fascinating. If you just sort of use your imagination, how does the knight enter also? Right. You know, normally when you have a knight like this against a bishop, you can just dance the knight around looking for a square to enter, you know, the enemy position and make threats. But every entry square...
Well, the knight can't go anywhere right now because it's forever hooked into that e4 pawn protection.
Right. So, and every entry square is covered. We can't get to b3.
So we can't even dislodge the knight to attack the bishop with the king. Mm-hmm. but black can't get in anywhere either, right? So I have a feeling this is looking like totally welcome to draw. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is welcome to Drawville. So let's move on and check a game we haven't looked in with at all yet. Let's look at William Aramil playing black in this game. And he's playing against, let me pull the matchup up.
This is Trisha Kanyamarala.
Yes, women's FIDE master Trisha Kanyamarala. And what is going on here? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Will's up 2 pawns.
And that game was drawn, by the way. So just a quick note there.
Will's up 2 pawns. They're connected passed pawns. No, he's not up 2 pawns. I'm sorry. His opponent has a knight. And the problem is, you know, one of Will's pawns is particularly weak here. I think Will is in some trouble, honestly. And of course, he did not hang his rook last move because he was threatening mate. So now that rook is on prise. Now the queen can take it. There is no mate. The queen can also take c5. I think this is going to be Team USA's first loss. I'm a little worried about Will's position. Here. Where do we even play for black? I mean, I guess we can sort of grovel with rook c8. No, you can't even do that because the rook on a4 hangs, right?
Right. Well, it does now after rook f2. Yep. So now that you've covered the queen, the mate threat.
Rook f2, very nice move, covering both the mate threat and, of course, also rook a2. So yeah, rook a3, pretty much only move. And now, is there some cheapo? If he goes queen takes, can we go rook takes knight? And rook takes d3?
Well, it looks like they did queen takes, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. I guess you can get a little bit of material back that way. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, I don't think so, because after rook takes, I think white will even consider... No, you'll just take with rook, and there's even rook e7 check. So yes, you can even deny them.
On b7, right?
Yeah. I was wondering, actually, if it was available right now.
Right.
So rook takes, but maybe there's just queen c7 check.
Oh, you got queen a3 as well.
Well, queen a3, yeah. So you have nothing in this position. Yeah, so this, I fear, is going to be Team USA's first loss. And I would actually even expect resigns right here. Because on king f8, there's, at a bare minimum, there's rook f7.
And rook a7.
So king h8.
Now is there knight f7 and some sort of...
It certainly looks really gross. Yeah, I mean,
nasty tricks.
Wherever you put the king, there's knight d6 check, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to pick up the rook on e8.
So Team USA probably taking a loss. I'm going to move up to a game we haven't looked at. So we've got FIDE master Karl Dehmelt, who I believe represented Team USA's senior team this year as well. And he is playing against Stephen Moran of Ireland. And, oh boy. Yeah, the two connected pass pawns probably should win the day for white. Although, of course, the old adage, one runs faster than two.
Right. So USA is white in this position, right? We're going...
USA is black in this position.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So there we go.
And we had another game go final I just saw. National Master Akash Maduri lost his game to Peter Carroll. So we'll check in with that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to go back, the point here was you cannot go king e5 approaching the pawn because there would be rook c5 check and suddenly all options are back for black. But after b6, rook b2, king c2, is this pawn just getting home? I was wondering even about f4, b7, f3, b8, rook take, king take, f2. I think that kind of worked. But now you can also play f4 and the king is in the way.
It looks like William did actually resign this game. And Ireland did pick up their second win. As we noted, Peter Carroll just won on board 12 as well. So
his king is just so far away. Ireland making a comeback. And I think they're going to pick up a point here too. Although, okay, let's go through a couple of decisive games that happened. I think white is going to come away with this one. Let me just double check that before I give that analysis. So yeah, I mean, white is going to come out. The king is too far away to have a hope here. So let's check a couple of our decisive games. We'll start with this one, where this finish looks very brutal. So National Master Akash Maduri, another player on Team USA who has a very strong faster time control acumen. But something went horribly wrong in this game, so let's see what that was. Another London system, Chris.
Oh.
So he takes on c5 here.
Right.
Which is a bit surprising. I think maybe he was just trying to take the opponent out of book early. Knight c6, sure, very logical to play perhaps e5 if playable. Okay. And I have to fulfill some captain duties for a moment. Okay. So bishop b5, of course, slowing down the e5 break. The point is, when you have a pin, if they play e5, you take it.
Right.
Queen e5 check, knight c3. Yes, queen d4. And g6, sure, this is very logical. Just to play bishop g7, right? Knight ge2, bishop g7, bishop e5, castle. Yeah, and now b4 is coming as well. Akash is just trying to cement his extra pawn. So I have to say, this worked out very nicely for white. Something must have gone wrong later on in the game.
Right.
Bishop f5, there goes b4, and the opening has been a complete success. You know, this queen cannot be dislodged. Whenever the knight moves, there will be a trade. So the queen is untouchable by minor pieces, and he's just up a solid pawn. King d2, I mean, why not just castle? He wants to save c2, I suppose, right? But even then, you know, maybe just some defending move in castle. I think maybe this is where it starts to go incorrectly for white, keeping your king in the middle. Queen c8, f3, and he has maybe some aggressive intent here. Rook d1. You know, I should point out a couple of moves here. So I'll just show both. Maybe if you play g4 immediately, maybe he was worried about some kind of sack. But you know, I don't know. I kind of like that move. Okay. Engine points out the clever response. So black to play here. Chris, what do you like for black in this position? I'm very fascinated by the number one engine move in this position. You know, this would be kind of a fun rapid game, blitz game move to play. Hey, I'm going to launch everything at your king.
Yeah, I mean,
but of course, we're overlooking a very straightforward.
Oh, okay. I mean, if there's no way to drop that bishop back somewhere very passively, I'm sure, and allow white's kingside attack, do you have some sort of putting something on e4 because you can never take it, like bishop e4
yep.
or something? Or?
Yeah, it's very clever actually. It's knight takes knight e4 check.
Oh, okay.
And you probably want to play king c1 here. I mean, we could actually see some material imbalance similar to the Rosen game where we take it, right?
Right.
They take it, and we're gonna have like a rook and a minor against a queen.
Yeah, you can take on f5 now, right? And then
you can take on f5. You could take on g7 maybe first, and then actually this is a really wild position, isn't it? It's a rook and 2 minors against a queen. Am I counting that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Rook and the 2
Yeah.
knights. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? I just realized once I start playing variations, I'm not going to be able to get back to the game to see what happened. So let's move on anyway. We've got a lot of results coming in. On board 1, we suffered a loss.
Right.
So let's see how that happened.
Beat Shetty.
When we last left this game, it was a while ago, and we had seen this this pawn reaching all the way to the square c3. And yeah, the knight reactivates, of course. So the knight reactivates. Eric is, of course, trying to support his queenside. And wow, this is actually a very interesting game. So how does this go from here to the final, to the finish? Let's see. I'm very impressed because at this moment I feel like the position is like somewhat fairly equal. You know, we've got this really nice strength on c3, but on the other hand, our king is a little open. We have an isolated pawn here, and our pieces, if we're black, are really not that harmonious. So let's see what happens. So he takes. Of course, if we take this way, there's probably d5 immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, not to mention, nice little tactic here also, queen b3 check.
Yep.
Queen b3 check, if we were to take it with this pawn and then just pick up a bishop. So it takes queen b3 anyway, and here's where it starts to go poorly for black, I fear. Right, I think you must play rook c4. So that's the only move that covers the bishop and the pawn. Oh, and we're on to the next game.
Right.
Let me pull up, where was I?
Okay, so there's a couple of other quick results that just wanted to mention. Elliott Winslow, it looks like won on board 10.
Impressive.
And it looks like there was a draw between, we never got to this game, Sabina Foisor against Stephen Brady on board 6. So,
yeah. Okay, so Elliott with a nice win for us, and yep. Sabina, yeah, this position, this endgame looks fairly equal. I might say white has a slight pull just because, you know, you've got essentially an extra pawn, right?
If you can close those games off and go to the Rosen game, it looks like Eric has 5 seconds left.
Oh, wow. 3, yeah, okay. 2, make a move, Eric.
And what's happening here? So this was this material imbalance, right? So black now has...
white is one move away from another queen.
In.
Yeah.
How do you stop that?
I don't know you can, honestly. I think this is probably Resign's time. This is probably Resign's time. And I think...
Oh, he moved, but what happens if...
Yeah, he just promotes. You can just promote.
Right.
Which he does, yeah.
Takes that one.
And if this pawn were gone, you might have some kind of a dream of a fortress, but this pawn is not gone.
Yeah,
So I fear we're taking a hit here.
Right. Yeah, I have a feeling there's no good way to do this because of the B pawn.
Right, king here, B pawn runs, and
yeah.
So I was mistaken. I was actually referring to the our board 1 game here, which I'm going to go back to because I'm chalking this up as a win for white. Just push. You could even just take the rook.
Yep, yeah. And he does. Yep. So that's going to be...
Nice little stalemate trap at the end. Nice little stalemate trap at the end.
In case of pawn up.
I mean, full credit to Eric for the very very nice trick. Of course, we'll just show that if you had pushed the pawn here, the game instantly finishes by stalemate.
Right. Nice try. It's all that blitz play, all the bullet play does, right? That's
right. You learn those tricks from bullet, I feel, right? From everybody pre-moving and stalemating you. That's where you learn a trick like that. You learn it from bullet. So.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, there's another game up there in Time Trouble. It looks like, yeah, that one.
Or how about this one? This one looks good too. We left off way long ago here, and this might be a win for us. Yeah, Gopal just declined to draw because I feel like his D pawn is the most dangerous pawn on the board. The white king is shaky, and with 10-second increment, that's like a lifetime to Gopal. I know I watch him play bullet tournaments on Lichess, and he berserks with only a minute on his clock, taking himself down to 30 seconds. So if he's got 24 seconds with a 10-second increment, he might as well have 10 hours on the clock.
Right.
So he just declined to draw. This should be an interesting finish. Chris, while we're watching the finish to this game, maybe we should take a quick look at the updated scoreboard.
Yeah, let me go ahead and show you that. So I've been trying my best to keep this up to date as best I can. So I know we just had another game finish in a draw there on board 3. So that game is actually going to be into game 3 the next time they start.
And we have Proleko ahead 1.5 to half, correct?
Yeah, and we can actually show this with chess.com usernames as well, so that we can. Does that work? Yeah, that seems to work. So yes, so we have Tug. Tug is on a half against Northyard Prince, 1.5 on board 3 there. So that game seems to be the furthest on. It looks like Ireland seem to be doing pretty well on boards 1, 2, 7, 8, and 12. So they've got the edge in those ones. And USA has the edge on board 3, 9, and 10 right now. So that's that.
So Ireland actually, in terms of won games, games where they won the game, they have a 4-3 lead on us.
Is it 4 or even 5 maybe? I think
2,
there's 5.
3, 4, 5. You're right, 5-3 lead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we really need this point here from Gopal against FIDE Master. Who is he playing again? Let's see. Gopal, FIDE Master, Killian Delaney.
Right.
Okay, yes.
And this is still our first game, as far as I'm aware. So I've been trying my best to keep up with this.
No, I think you're correct.
They're coming in
I think
thick
you're
and
correct.
Fast. So yes, someone's asking if they should be gaming 15 plus 10. Yes, they should be gaming 15 plus 10, not 10 plus 15. So it looks like someone was challenged to the wrong. And Sabina saying her opponent declined her challenge. I'm getting stuff in the Twitch chat here. And hi to Jen Shahadi, who's joining in.
Yeah, my guess would be they're probably still on a break. And did this game end in a draw? Yeah, this game ended in a draw.
Looks like it did, yeah. So Komodo Dragon against Shaman 91 there was a draw.
A little bit of a surprise. I feel like this D-pawn is pretty dangerous. Although maybe the issue is you can't really push it, right? Like if they play King D2, how do you actually get those pawns moving?
Yep. Let me actually go back to the chessboard so people can see what you're talking about. So,
sure. Mm-hmm. That would help, right?
I was still updating the chessboard, the results, but yes, so people can actually see what you're talking about now. So you go ahead, Pete. I'm still.
So yeah, I was just saying it's not as easy as it appears to get these pawns moving. What square does the queen belong on to move the pawns? Does the queen belong on the second rank? And then we push, threatening a mate. The problem is though, your own king, where does it hide as well? So like, can white just start checking? Is there actually even a way out of these checks? Oh, and here we are on to Sabina's next game as well.
Yeah, Pete, we're getting some chat in the channel here that says the game that started as gaming 10 plus 15 is 4 moves in. Apparently, what would you like them to do? I don't know who Dynamic Chess Inc. is.
That is William Aramil.
Okay.
So, in the spirit of an international friendly, we'll let them keep playing if they want, and if they want to restart, that's okay too. But I would suggest keep going with your game. If you're already 4 moves in, continue the game.
Yeah. Can you close that game off real quick? The draw there, Pete. The 2. No, yeah. Sure. Just close that off. That way, I know I've already recorded that result. Thank you.
So here's a game. I believe this is their second game.
This is their
and
second
Gunnar
game.
is up 1-0.
Yep.
And what is happening here? It looks like he is about to go up 2-0.
Well, I see a black queen on the board, and I don't see a white queen anywhere.
That's usually a sign black is doing well. Not always. Particularly at the scholastic level, that's a sign black is doing well.
Right.
Okay, so
but
how do we?
But at the scholastic level, if we get more than 1 queen, then it's usually a sign that we're heading towards stalemate at some stage.
Yes, then it's a draw. Exactly. If you've got 1 queen to 0 queens, you're winning at the scholastic level. 2 queens to 0 queens, the game is probably drawn. Yeah, I was looking at maybe rook h8, but queen g6 is nice too. Just poking around.
Yeah, is there any way for... Yeah, I mean... There's no
So I mean,
way...
king d3 maybe, but then again, rook h8.
Right.
I mean, maybe knight c5 is the superior move because you're reactivating a piece. I wonder. So I'm also wondering: is rook takes d5 on the menu? So let's see. Is there some tactical trick here? Like rook. I'm looking at rook takes, pawn takes, and queen b6.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like here is that
G4.
pin on the G file and those knights becoming a little hoppy around the black king there.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't like hoppy knights near my king at all, and that's why I was thinking about this simplification in queen b6. The problem is, can black win that? Though?
I wonder if rook c8 just attacking that c5 knight and leaving e4 with no protection at some stage.
Rook f1 check. King g7 we can play because knight e6 is covered.
Yeah.
So you're right. Maybe we can play rook c8. But hold on. Let's look at that again. Rook c8, rook f1 check.
You go king e8. No. Anyway,
I was worried about.
He gets out the pin the pin of the bishop, and obviously the threat is queen h2.
Yeah, that's a pretty big threat. I'm expecting rook f1 check. Yeah, and now you got to find a square for the king.
Okay.
So this is covered.
Yep.
Knight f6. We're probably playing queen h2 check anyway. Actually, I don't think you can move this knight at all because.
Oops. I think we had an oops on the board. He played rook g1 to put the bishop back in a pin, and that
is actually a major oops.
That rook might be falling off the board here, and that is game over. So that's 2 games to 0 to Coach Gunnar.
Yeah, Coach Gunnar taking a nice commanding lead.
I think we can actually use, if these guys have not played each other before, we can use the chess.com score there to keep an eye on that.
Correct. So we've got 2-0 in favor of Coach Gunnar.
Yeah. So board 9. So USA is half a point away from securing the first match board. Point. Right.
So here we've got was this a Scandinavian? It kind of looks like it might have been. So we've got Akash on board 12, and I think this might have been a Scandinavian. Let's see. Akash against Peter Carroll on board 12.
Yeah. And
yes, sure enough, it was. Which, of course, we know has been played by the likes of Magnus Carlsen lately in some of the major invitational events. And, yeah, one of the only issues of the Scandinavian is sometimes you move your queen a lot, right?
Yeah.
First day of chess camp. Every year I like to show, I believe it's the Immortal game, right? The King's Gambit, where the black queen moves 7 times within the first 10 moves or something like that. As a, hey, don't do this.
Yep.
But here we have, of course, National Master Akash Maduri doesn't mind doing so. I'm going to skip around and try to get all the games done. How about our board 1 game where Atulya Shetty is trying to make a comeback against Alex Lopez?
Right. So we're down 1-0 in this match, and we have the white pieces now.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of like Atulya's position a little bit now. The question is, how do you capture back here?
Right. Well, you're going to end up with a pawn on d5, right, at some stage.
And I think I like this way too. I think the reason he did this was, white has a spatial advantage.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 knights that both want to use the square e4. So the knights are kind of a little bit maybe taking each other's squares away. So there's no need to trade this one for that one. And of course, as you know, when we have a space advantage, you also don't want to trade pieces. So taking back with the pawn first makes sense. Okay, early stages here. I'm going to keep hopping around, trying to find an interesting game to look at. Wow, this was some kind of a Benoni, I suppose.
And thank you, Abeka755 in the chat for the nice words about the commentary there. So Pete is very good at this stuff. So
well, I appreciate that. Earlier, I think my brain was off a little bit, and I was missing tactics left and right.
And the reason why Pete is so good at explaining these is because he's pretending he's explaining the games to me. And so he has to bring the level down to my understanding of chess here. So that's why the casual player can hopefully understand this commentary a little more than if we had top grandmasters giving their sort of usual analysis of such positions.
Yes, I certainly make no claims to be any kind of top grandmaster. So what is happening here? I mean, normally when you see this, so this is a backwards pawn, right?
Yep.
No pawns can defend it. I feel like this pawn is probably just lost. I mean, even if black can hold it,
you have to play rook e6 or.
I mean, okay, so if I'm black here, I'm trying to lose this pawn in the best way possible. Now we can take e4 and trade it, but then a lot of pieces are on undefended squares. I'll just show a sample.
Rook actually 94. Yeah, 94.
This is the type of variation that I feel like a lot of players would go for, and that I feel like I really dislike, and I'll explain why. Because in this position, you've actually done something good if you're black.
Right.
Go ahead, Chris, sorry.
Yeah, no, so I was going to say at the end of that line as well, you had rook d4, right? Picking up the knight if he took on d6. So...
Right, yeah. Good point. So let's look at that. So this is interesting. Black wants to do this pawn trade because you're getting rid of a bad backwards pawn on an exposed half open file for a healthy white pawn that can even be connected with f3. So black wants to do this trade. But these type of positions, so let's start with show a couple of things here. These type of positions typically tend to be not so fun for black, primarily just because his pieces are not really working together well. For example, you're right. Let's show your tactic here. Rook d6 probably is like working, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's give another example. What if I start with queen f3? And now, sort of the point is, when my knight lands on d6, there's a lot of targets. Now you can play rook e6,
right? Rook
d1, and this is like, kind of unpleasant pressure. I would not be in any hurry to grab this pawn back. I think we want to add pressure here.
Yeah. I think I might have gone the other way after instead of dropping the rook back. I might have even looked at something like d5. Can you play d5?
Yeah,
there? and then queen e7. Oh, the rook is attacked. That's right.
But maybe you can just do this and
rook
just
e7?
say everything's under control.
I'll play here. I'm not sure. Rook d7 now, because you can't. I don't know. Do you?
Well, there's really no threat here, right? Because if I take queen takes everything, so maybe I can even just.
No, that's right. Because you can't play rook e1 afterwards. Yeah.
So maybe the moral of this analysis is that black is okay. Let's see what happened in the game. Let's get back to our game. He goes rook e6. I don't know that I like that. I think I would have tried to make this work, because on a very principled level, if you can trade this for this, you should do that.
Right.
I wonder what he was worried about. Let's see.
Yeah.
Maybe he was worried about bishop taking, but then you just play a6, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep moving around.
I mean, rook e6 was the first thing that came to my mind until I started looking at knight e4 and all the fun stuff around that. But yeah, so... But these guys do have 15 minutes plus a 10-second increment to think about this. It's not... I mean,
they're spending a lot more time on these positions than I am.
Yeah, he's got a few more minutes to consider it than we do.
Right.
But rook e6 was the first move that came to mind, if only because the rook, it allows you to double rooks on the e file at some stage. There's no light squared bishop, which is the first thing I look for when putting a rook on a light square. So it's not going to be attacked that way. It might come under an f4, f5 push at some stage.
It just feels a little like,
it's very defensive. I mean, you're tying it down to the defense of that d6 pawn.
Additionally, if you think about, if you just think about this position from like a 30,000 foot view, right? Like, what does black want to do here?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ideally, you want to either push this pawn or get rid of it somehow.
Yeah.
You want to try to coordinate your pieces. I think our pieces are vastly I don't know what we're going to do with this rook,
Right.
You can't push the pawn at the moment because there's knight c7. And now I think we're going to see, so we already saw a5. It wouldn't surprise me if white even follows up with a6 in this position.
Yeah, for sure.
Knight c4, f3 at first, of course, to cover everything. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Knight c8
it looks a little passive.
Yeah, I mean, knight c8 was obviously necessary, right? It was, if you're going to play, you can't play knight d7, otherwise your d6 pawn does go.
Right. and cut the connection between your queen and the pawn.
Right.
So we have another decisive result. Let's see if Tianqi Wang used any time in this game. Remember the last game we saw of his,
so it looks like
actually added time.
He lost this game, so that actually ties that match at 1.5 now. So that board 3 matches anybody's game, and they have one more game to play.
And if anybody does win the next game, they win the match.
Yes. So exactly.
If anybody does win the next game, they win the match. So let's see what happened here. Same opening as game 1. Or a very similar opening to game 1.
So someone's asking why the score on the main board is showing as 0-0. So the score is 0-0 officially right now between USA and Ireland because none of the matches have actually finished. So only when the individual match between the players, so the players play 4 games between each other, and only when one of those players gets to 2.5 points will a team, as in USA or Ireland, score 1 point for the match. So the match itself between USA and Ireland is still 0-0, but obviously the players themselves have various match scores going on right now. So nobody has actually secured a match win yet for either USA or Ireland. And if you do that, you score 1 point for your team. And if a match ends up 2-2, it's a half point for the teams. And the first team to score 6.5 will win. But there's nothing based on the individual match scores. Winning a match 3-0 is as good as winning it by 2.5, 1.5, or 4-0. It doesn't matter. So,
right.
And we're asking, is there any side in the lead in the way of sets of 4? Yes, there are. So Ireland have the lead in 5 games right now. And USA has the lead in 2 matches right now. And we've got 4 matches that are currently tied. Did that add up to 12? I wasn't counting. But,
I think that was 11. 5,
actually,
2, and 4.
So I have one match that I don't have a result for.
And which one is that?
So that was board 11, which is Julian Proleco. But I think if you just click on that,
we had a draw.
They drew their first match, so I don't have that result in yet.
And the second match is looking fairly favorable for Team USA. White has the 2 bishops. 1, 2. He's down a pawn though. He's got the two bishops are pretty strong in this position because there's tons of pressure on this white square diagonal. There's tons of pressure on the square e6, and the rook is very active as well. On the other hand, what if maybe black just plays e5 here and says there's nothing, you have nothing? What if we just play e5 and we have nothing? I suppose that could also be perfectly true. Yeah, maybe we just go e5. So this will be a good one to keep an eye on. Chris, I was playing through our loss here with Tianqi Wang, and I noticed that we actually had a very similar opening to the previous game. You might remember in game 1 that black lost, he allowed that knight g5 hit to the bishop. And take a look at this.
He's played h6.
He learned his lesson here, and it worked out much better. He actually ends up winning this game.
Right.
And at this point, I still don't see anything particularly wrong with White's position. It looks fine. Yeah, I might have
traded there and open the e file up.
I don't know if this is good or not though, because the problem is I highlighted the wrong square.
No, well, now that you've analyzed, I don't think we'll be able to get to see the rest of the moves.
Oh, I got to remember to bring up an analysis board. Okay, well, I'm just going to move on then. That's my simple solution.
Well, we're learning, folks. We're learning how to do this. And someone's asking what happens if it ends up 6-6. I believe both teams will nominate a player to play a bullet game, which will decide the match. So the tiebreak will be I don't know if it's 1 bullet game or a bullet match.
The tiebreak is 2 bullet games. And if it's still tied after the 2 bullet games, then we call the match a tie. Okay. Just like you can have an international friendly match end in a tie in soccer, we're going to do the same here. But we are going to have a shootout first with the 2 bullet games.
Okay.
Or football, I should say, right? Because we're playing Ireland, an international football match. He does play a6. I really like this move, and I feel like White is getting some... now you can see why I didn't want to go into this for Black, because White is really getting some...
Right. You can't never dislodge that knight from b5 now.
Yes.
And if White gets a c4 pushing and just anchor that d6 pawn forever at some stage, I guess he will want to defend e4 at some stage, I imagine, first. But,
yeah.
But like rook e1 is an automatic developing move anyway. Or yeah, f. Oh, wow. So
see, now we've sort of committed to defending this pawn. We're not taking this for some reason. And it might be too late.
Can you bail out?
I think it's probably too late. There goes c4. So, but let's see if we can. Whoops, I'm sorry. I kind of think it's already too late to take that pawn, and we're sort of doomed to some passive position.
We're attacking it. We're attacking that pawn later on. So he plays.
So let's see, rook. If we take it, why won't it let me take the pawn? Maybe I have to bring an analysis board.
Yeah. So.
So how do I bring up analysis board? A6, B takes, rook takes, and here's where I want to bring up analysis board. There we go. So I think it's too late to take it because if we play knight takes e4 here, there's this cute little trick.
Oh, okay.
And remember this passive knight move, knight retreat that we played.
Yep.
And now we're just hanging material.
Yep.
So I think it's already too late, and now we're sort of stuck defending this pawn. So let's see how Elliott handled that. Maybe he's got a plan in mind. And again, remember, these players spend a lot more time on the positions than I do. So queen d7, sure, right? Developing the queen with tempo.
Yep, and that's why c4 came in.
That's why c4 came in. We still can't play this. It's the same trick, right? Knight takes, rook takes, and queen d5.
Yeah.
So now he plays queen b7. Now we're going to take this, and we're also gaining some tempo. Okay. Rook a2, and he does take it, finally. Well, which, again, to me, that means we should have taken it immediately, right? If we're going to take it, we should have probably taken it immediately.
Well, this might be a lot better version, because you're not actually trading it for this d6 pawn, or I guess you still are, but...
Well, and you remember the version we showed earlier, there was that queen coming to f3, the knight coming to d6, and white had some pressure, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. This might be a much better version. Elliott might have found a better way to trade the pawns, which is...
Right, because we're attacking c4 as well now.
Yeah, and no, he does play queen f3. Okay.
Okay, well, the rook is pinned, sort of. Well, I mean, rook e7, but...
So where do we play now? I want to just play this and get rid of it.
Do you play f5? Or you get rid of that?
Oh, yeah, you could anchor the rook first with f5. I mean, this knight has just been so frustrating, right, for so long.
Well,
I think I want to make it
after a6, he's going to play knight takes d6, right? I mean, you have to...
I would assume so.
Take on
d6. Whoops. Okay,
well,
so he goes rook e7.
Okay.
He really just wants to give this pawn and get a game. The problem, though, is I wonder if you can go like this.
Yeah, you can only make one move in the game thing, I think. Or it looks like, no, that's the actual move. Yeah,
okay.
You use the analysis.
And now what if he just goes here is my worry. Right? That's kind of difficult. Okay, I'm going to skip around again. Let's try to pick up some of our top boards. Where's Eric? Let's check in with Eric's game, because Eric's down 1-0 in the match, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Eric's down 1-0. Does this look
time in this position? And well, he has quite the attack going. Black. It's like neither player decided to develop their queenside pieces.
This is wild. I mean, it either works or it doesn't, right? I mean, if you can find a finishing blow here with white, great. Otherwise, you're busted.
Rook f1. What's up?
Okay, so let's talk about rook f1. Knight h3 or bishop e3. He might just be trying to win the bishop. That might be point number one. Might be let's just win the bishop if we can.
So there's and the capture on h6, I assume, is met by like something like knight h3.
Knight f7, maybe.
Right. Yep.
So you can't take there. I'd be looking at a move like this to help develop our piece, grab a little tempo. This is just a crazy game. How did we get here? Let's see how we got here. Okay, Dutch defense. Sure. Wow. Okay, g6. Is that really... I mean, my lack of knowledge of this opening is really showing here, but that's not a real move, is it?
No, g6 is the Dutch Leningrad, right? It's
yeah, but not against knight c3.
Okay.
So if you want to go g6, I mean, g6 is played against like g3,
c4, and g3. Okay.
Exactly. But against knight c3, you're just saying I'm going to play e4, right? So I think you're supposed to do something about that. And black doesn't do anything about that. And that's kind of just like asking for an attack, which is exactly what happens in the game. White just goes for it right away. And yeah, I feel like this really worked out well for Eric.
And just quickly, we had one more result come in, and we had another draw on board 5 between Karl, Boor, and Conor O'Donnell. So that match is tied 1-1 still.
Wow, this game here like never really got out of the opening, which is fascinating. Okay, well, we need to keep an eye on this. This will be exciting.
Well, black has to do something about the F2 bishop, right, at some stage, but
yeah.
I guess...
Was this draw by repetition? I think it was. Yeah,
yes,
draw by repetition.
Yeah, sure was.
Interesting.
Yeah. So both guys seem to be happy playing each other right now, and we'll move to game 3 for that at some point.
So I'm going to go back to Will Aramil's game. NM Will Aramil. Up a pawn, but boy, black has a lot of pressure here, right?
Right. And Will is down a point in this match right now, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't say that, but...
So let's see how we got here.
Well, maybe because there's a different time control. So it looks like they started with... Did they start with the wrong time control? This is the one that started with the wrong time control, right?
It is, yeah. This was the 10+15 game.
Yeah, but... Okay.
And this turned out to be some kind of weird reverse Benoni structure, kind of, maybe, question mark. But the problem is I feel like this is a nice version for black because the bishop is not on g2. Yeah. Pawn e4 break is going to happen. And sure enough, it happens immediately. Yeah, and now you're not even castled. So it's a very weird reverse Benoni. Trisha Kanyamarala playing very well. I mean, Will is a very strong player. And if she goes up 2-0 against him, that's a really nice score.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she's going to try and make use of the bishop pair at some stage. She did just lose a pawn, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is a pawn that she was very happy to lose, though, because how do you ever extricate yourself from this pen?
Right.
How do you ever... Even if, like, my next two moves with black, even if I just do something incredibly slow and just play here and here, what do you do?
You just play rook e4, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so maybe we have to play f3. Right. F3, but then rook up, just play rook here. And you're too slow. You can't get out of the pin.
Because you can't get the king out the way to protect the rook on d1.
You need to play both king e2 and rook d2 and rook d1.
Yeah, or king h2. Like, just go king h2, so at least the rook on d1 is protected, so you can move the knight on d4. But you can never move the knight because of the bishop on b2 as well. Mm-hmm. So...
You never get out of this pin, is the problem.
I guess taking that pawn was not quite the best way to go about it. Yeah, what do? You can't even give up the exchange by playing knight takes f5 because rook takes d1 is just mate, right?
Yeah, mate in 1, yeah. No, this is a really unfortunate position, I think.
And there's no little checks that you can throw in or anything. Yeah, that looks a very bad position. So I'm
going to move on back to the Proleko game. So here was where he found a way to sort of try to extend the power of this bishop, but black bypasses with e5, as we thought. And, he's down a pawn, and it's a passed pawn. But on the other hand, he does have a lot of pressure here.
He does have the bishop pair, and he does have some semblance of
some optical pressure. Right, exactly. Right. He's got an optical advantage, and he's got the bishop pair, so that counts for something. And he's got a huge time advantage too, and that might count for more.
I mean, you can sort of win this pawn back at some stage with just taking on f6 and taking on e4. I know the queen queen b2 at the end of that line.
Yeah, and I don't see enough. I mean, okay, so let's just put that on the board.
But queen b2, and well, we can't.
I can't
show
put
that
it
now.
on the board. Yeah.
But you got queen b7 at the end of that line, picking up the pawn. So it would all end up equal.
Well, you got to watch out for bishop f2 as well. Right? Actually, here you can just play bishop f2.
Oh, okay. Yep. You don't have any nice little moves. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, on principle, you wouldn't want to win this pawn back anyway. You'd rather try to keep, try to make something of the pressure.
Yeah, keep the bishop pair if you don't get something back for it immediately.
Okay, let's move on. Do we have any other games? Oh, we do have a game. I was going to say, do we have any in time control? This is the game we were following with that d6 e4 situation.
Right.
And white is actually up a pawn, but it's not a particularly healthy pawn. His pawn structure is compromised. Now we got to watch out. I think this b4 might be on the menu here. b4.
Yeah.
And the point is, of course, you cannot take because the bishop hangs.
Yep.
But maybe you just go rook a2. So like if you go b4, yeah, he plays b4, and now maybe you just go rook a2. You could also think about f5 here, because if the rook stops attacking the bishop, you can take on b4. And if you go f5, b5, that would be a horrible blunder because of rook a1 check, and then you just grab a free rook.
Yeah.
So maybe he has f5 in mind here. Rook a2 is definitely worth considering. You could even go. Let's just show that. Oh wait, did he play that? He did play that.
Yeah.
Rook a6, b4, rook a2. Yeah. I was going to say you might even think about rook a1 check first, king g2, and then rook a2, because taking the pawn comes with check.
Yep. Well, you taking the pawn still comes with check right now if you take it with
you take with the bishop. True. Good point. Yeah.
So this might allow b5. Well, okay, so knight e3.
Wait, hold on. This is a mistake. So because now you can play f5. Now you can play f5. This is a major mistake.
And then if rook e6,
if nothing else, you can take the b pawn and run. But right. I'm looking at, can we make anything like this happen?
Okay. So he took on e3.
Well, this is certainly also a simpler way to do it, right?
Right.
Now you have to choose. Do you guard the pawn or do you play like any other move? I probably guard the pawn, and yeah, he does. The point is you want to trade this pawn for this pawn to unstuck your rook, if that's a word I can use.
Is black doing better here just because of the pawn structure?
Definitely. Yeah. The pawn structure, this pawn is probably a little better than c4. The king can get there. He's going to play rook a2 now is what I would play. Or rook a3. Okay, yeah. 3. But king e2. That's why I preferred rook a2. Because king e2 now. And the white king gets to participate in the game. Whereas after rook a2, you maybe have a harder time participating with the white king.
Yeah, maybe here I go rook d5 and rook b5 and put the rook behind that pawn.
Yeah. Well, he's going to play rook c3, right? I guess he could take f3 and then play rook c. Yeah, I would play rook c. This pawn is almost irrelevant at the moment.
Right.
It's all going to come down to what happens over here. Now, if these two pawns come off, white probably draws most of the time, but the pawn structure does give you an advantage. Oh, wow, f5. Okay, he didn't play f5. Sorry, he played b3. That was my computer doing something. Yeah, I was going to say b3 is like way more logical. I didn't get f5.
Yeah, there's no, now with the c5 pawn in the way, there's no way to
Black can win this, I think. I think black can win this. White really mishandled this rook and pawn endgame. He should have played king e2. You got to use your king.
Right.
Maybe he was worried that king and pawn endgame is a loss.
Knight e3 when it came in seemed a little weird to me.
It did, yeah. That move seemed bizarre to me as well.
So
I think you just give the pawn there. And
yeah, I think I would have given up the f2 pawn and just played b5 and hoped that passed pawn gave me some sort of edge.
So let's actually move up to our board 1 game, which is also an extreme time pressure.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of games are getting
they are
that way right now.
So I'm going to do sort of a lightning mode between the time pressure games, and we'll try to show as many as we possibly can at the same time.
Looks like we're going to have a slew of results coming in at the end here.
Boy, this looks not fun. Okay, I'm going to lightning mode, and we'll come back to it. 20 seconds here, rook and pawn endgame. Akash
so this
needs a point to equalize. Yeah, he needs a point to equalize. He has a huge time advantage. So can he find something to cause trouble?
I don't know. This looks very. I mean,
looks drawish to me.
Just counting the pawns and whatever, But white,
right.
No, they're 7 pawns each, right?
And the problem is this doubled pawns is not really a huge disadvantage because black still cannot create a passed pawn over here. The white rook is more active than its counterpart. This just looks equal, maybe small edge to white. So I'm going to move on. Elliott does win. Nice job, Elliott. Up 2-0. And really playing extremely well. Extremely well. Nice finish by Elliott in this game.
Yeah. So that puts USA up 2-0 on board 10.
2-0 on board 10, yeah. Great game by Elliott. He really played that well, honestly. He found a better way to do that e4 for d6 pawn trade. And then in the resulting endgame, he outplayed his opponent. Okay, checking back in on board 1. Queen e3 was played.
King h1.
And
just rook f6 and rook h6 come in?
Sure, I was wondering if you could even do this. And what do you do about that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would look at is rook f6, but I guess he played bishop f2. I didn't know how to stop rook f6 and rook h6.
I'm not a huge fan of bishop f2, actually. What's his idea here? I don't understand his idea. Okay, so let's try a couple of variations. I'm going to bring up analysis.
Is he looking at queen g3 and queen h4?
Yeah, but what if... Can I play this? What if I just play that?
Right.
Queen takes f4 to go here. But the point is I'm just going to try to win your bishop. Oh, I can't do this, actually. Hold on. I can't do this. I just hang my knight. What if I just play there? How do you save that? I think black just made a mistake. Now, will Atulya be able to capitalize on it? That's the question. Will Atulya... So he plays queen d3. He's worried about... He's also got a big time advantage. This is good. We might even the score on board 1. We might even the score on board 1.
Someone's asking in the chat if I play the birds opening.
I think the answer to that question is whether or not you currently do, you absolutely should. So then when people say, I got to play the bird.
I wish I did, but I don't. When I play, I'm a purely an e4 player, but yes, you're right. I should play the bird. I've had people just play it against me just because of who they were playing. They thought it was fun, even in serious games. I've had people play the bird variation
just to play the bird against the bird.
The bird variation of the Roy Lopez, and also play f4 against me just because.
Oh no! Something went really poorly wrong for Eric.
Uh-oh.
He had a huge advantage back here. What went wrong? So d5.
Took on f2.
Oh, he was thinking queen f2, queen e5, but he just takes the queen and yeah, all of a sudden he's just down in exchange, and this endgame is not good. Right. So he had to retreat the queen after d5. I wonder why he didn't. What he was worried about.
Queen e2 just picks it.
Look very logical.
Puts more pressure on that bishop. I don't know if there's a way to save that.
And perhaps more importantly, also clears the way for a bishop retreat if you need it. Just to get out of there. Yeah. Okay, so this is suddenly looking very not great for Eric. 2 rooks against a bishop and knight. Oof. Not good. You can't even take e6. Okay, so that doesn't look pleasant. We need our board 1. Coach Gunnar wins his match. So we have our first match point, Chris. You can update the board.
Woohoo!
I'm very worried about Eric on board 2, but Coach Gunnar winning the match.
The problem for USA is we're winning games in matches we were already ahead on.
Right.
We need to pull back some of those that we're down on right now, but I will update that to 3-0. I wish there was a way. I never even thought about it. I don't have a way to highlight, unfortunately, the score.
The match winner.
I'm showing the scoreboard here live on the screen here really quickly. I'm going to pop back to the main screen here and see if we can work out a way to...
So congratulations to National Master Gunnar Andersen of USA, Team USA.
Updated. So USA is actually 1-0 up in the match.
First decisive result in a match goes to Coach Gunnar.
So that leaves 11 matches still in play, and 5.5 more points needed by USA to clinch the match.
Wow, look at this. Gunnar was down an entire rook. He was down an entire rook. Yeah, look at this. I mean, he has pawns, but he's down an entire rook, and his opponent walked into...
Okay, so go back a couple of moves.
Any move here that doesn't walk into...
Go back one move. Yeah, no, go back to... Yeah, move one more. So rook f7. Can't you theoretically even just take on f2 and white takes and hold this ending with the 2 rook pawns? Isn't this just theoretically drawn as well?
Probably, yeah, but I mean, you never would, right? You never would.
No, but...
They're playing game 4 just for fun, but it's already the match is already won.
All right.
But why not play for fun? So Gunnar swindling his opponent in that game. Total swindle.
Well, yeah, complete swindle.
Let's move back up to our board 1. This is great. So we have a good chance to win here. Alex Lopez down very low on the clock and down on the board by a knight, although he does have quite a few pawns to compensate for that knight. I think this should be an exciting finish. We've got a small time edge here.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds against 10 seconds, or 10-second increments. So
right, with the increment, the time.
Yeah.
I want to target this pawn. So first e3 to solidify here. Also, the king gets a cubbyhole.
Yeah.
Again, I just want to play something to start attacking these pawns.
Well, the problem is b3 is protected by that knight on d4 right now. So the more of those pawns you trade off, the more you would favor a draw in this position. But if white can get some activity and start snatching pawns without black getting pawns in return, that would be much better.
Right. Yeah, I thought he did want to play rook d3 to get that off the board. But black, of course, is going to decline. Maybe rook f1 now. Yes, rook f1, and he can't stay in the zone.
Well, it makes sense. The f3 rook really wasn't doing an awful lot in that little cubby. It needed to be active somewhere.
Yeah, he is coming after the weak d pawns.
Yeah, for sure.
This would be a great point if we can pull it off. I think we have a little bit of time. We have another draw, 2 draws in a row between Gopal and is it Killian? I forgot who Gopal is playing. Let's see.
Yeah, Killian Delaney. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that match is now tied 1-1.
Correct.
Board 4.
All right, send that to Elliott. Wow, this is going to be a photo finish. I feel like I mean, you're up a piece with white, but it's really not an easy position because of black's pawns. Maybe rook c3 is worth thinking about. Oh no, rook c3 will take e3.
Yes, someone's asking if this is Atulya. Yes, it is Atulya Shetty. I was playing I am Alex Lopez, who's representing Ireland. Okay.
Are there any other games that are low that we should check in on? Maybe we should just stick with this one for a bit. Chris, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Really,
looks like we've got a couple of games down here in time trouble. So I say we get a couple of these games out the way. Let's get the new matches started. Then maybe we can hook off for a couple of minutes, put the scoreboard up.
Take a little break. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And then come back for the last portion of the match.
The home stretch.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm going to stick on this game just because it's so critical to the match score.
Yeah, for sure. If we go down 2 points, two games in this match, it's going to be very crucial. So I will just recap the match. I'll leave the board up on the screen, not show the scoreboard right now, but I will just mention the match situation right now. Is USA is leading only on I think 2 matches right now. Ireland has the edge on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches, and the rest are tied. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tied matches as well right now. So Ireland does have a lot of the edge, and it'd be very crucial that we don't go down 2 points in this particular match.
I think Atulya just found a nice way to. Whoa! You can't. I don't think you can do this, can you? I think Atulya just found a nice way to break through. He was going to be breaking through winning pawns. Alex Lopez decided to just give a rook instead.
Do you think he just overlooked the rook was being attacked by playing g4?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I can't imagine he thought this was going to work. It just doesn't, I don't think. I mean, for a variety of reasons, even just rook d4 cutting the king, rook d1 just saying you'll never promote that pawn, rook d2 asking black what he's up to. I mean, you pick your move, right? Pick a move here. It should be good enough. And quite correctly, by the way, I like what Atulya is doing. He's just taking his time, right? He's just taking his time, and he realizes if I can get a rook behind that pawn, it's even easier to stop. So I really approve of how Atulya handled this situation. Oh no, Julian lost his game. He was doing so well in that position, I thought. So we have another match score to update. Julian Proleko loses game 2.
So that is another match that swings in Ireland's favour, down on board 11 there. So that match now goes to 1.5 to half in Ireland's favour.
But I do believe we're going to even this one up. I think Atulya is going to have no difficulty. I'm actually expecting resigns here, and there it is.
And
resigns.
Yep. So Atulya actually ties that match up. So that still leaves Ireland ahead on 5 matches compared to 2 for us. But and then 5 tied matches too.
Look at this game. What is happening here? So Akash did find a way to make things weird. Look at this. Both pawns are about to promote, and both pawns are about to promote. What is happening? Dogs and cats getting together. What's going on?
Will we end up with 2 queens and a rook versus 2 queens and a rook?
I think so. But I mean, it's gotta favor the one who promotes first, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would play G1 queen because I'm always threatening F1 queen check.
Discovery, yeah. But then there's queen H4, right?
Right. Well, then king G2.
This is so confusing.
And you're still always threatening the check to queen with check.
So you got to go G1. Make a move, Vishy. Okay, he does it.
Okay.
All right.
So there we go.
Queen H4, King G2.
And looks like Sabina Foisor and Stephen Brady drew their
Drew again.
Game.
Yep.
So on board 6.
What is happening? Both players. We're going to see 4 queens on the board. We're going to go from 0 queens to 4 queens in like 3 moves, I think. Okay, so he checks. I think we got to maybe block that check.
Right.
Because if you take, you can promote with check. If you promote, what is going on?
Maybe just keep blocking the check. So does that allow something?
I guess I would. Yeah.
I would still consider King G2, but yeah. What's wrong with King G2?
This is such a confusing position.
Who's playing to win this? Who's playing?
I think it's going to be a draw with check constantly.
Oh, but we got to see the other pawn's queen first before we get the draw.
Yeah, I think we're headed to draw with check.
Boo.
What an insane game!
And it looks like Eric lost that game as well, by the way. And it looks.
Although, do we have another match victory?
It looks like is Northyard Prince our player?
Northyard Prince is Tianqi Wang, and he just went up 2.5, 1.5. That match is over.
Yes.
That match is over.
So Eric goes down 2-0 in his game, and we have another decisive victory in
Team Ireland wins this one.
So
let's see what happened here. So this was
no, Team USA won. Right. So Ireland is up 2-0 in Eric Rosen's match, and USA got the victory on board 3 to 2.5, 1.5.
Look at this. Will extricated himself from that pin somehow. He's actually like surviving this position. Can you believe this? How did he get out of that? We're going to have to come back to this game. Did we ever get to see the second queen appear on the board?
So there's a lot of results coming in here. Just gonna make sure I update them all.
Sure. I'll try to stick with one game until you're all caught up.
Bernard. So we Bernard KD.
Karl Dehmelt on board.
Lost on board 7.
Yes, to Stephen Moran. What's the score of that match? Is that
2-0 as far as I'm aware to Ireland on board 7. So let me see here.
I'm gonna come back to this game. This is the more interesting one.
So this is just a little confusing.
Will kind of found a survivable position.
All right, can you close off those? Just close off those results.
All of the results. You're good. You got them all.
I got them all. Yeah.
Okay.
And that way, at least I know where I'm at. And so the match score is 2-0 to USA right now, because we do have a match win on boards 3 and on board 9. However, we're down on 1, 2, 3, 4 boards, I believe it is, and the rest of the boards are tied. USA is leading on one other board. So we're down 1, 2, 3, 4 boards. Nope, we're down 5 boards. And we've won 2 boards, and we're ahead on 1 more, and the rest are tied right now.
Look at this game. Wow. Look at this game. They're still going. I don't know if we're ever going to see that pawn reach home.
How that pawn never made it queen with check. I don't, because the king is still sat up there on b6. And
right. And you could have discovered checked at any moment. Will got out of it somehow. He somehow got out of it. And this is now actually mate on the move. I'm not expecting that to actually happen, but... So now if we take the bishop, is black just promoting? I think yes, actually. I think yes. Elliott, what's the score on in board 10?
Board 10, USA is up 2-0 right now.
So Elliott only needs a draw to secure a win in that match.
Yeah.
And then...
So it looks like we have Jerry Graham in the chat. Is Jerry. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry. How's it going? All right. The Irish captain is visiting our chat channel.
Picking up all the secrets that we have going on over here on the USA side of things.
This game did finally end in a draw. What a crazy finish. I mean, we had an opportunity to potentially see four queens appear on the board, and instead we just finished with a draw. But really nice game there. Really nice game there.
Yeah, and that leaves Ireland's 1.5 half up in that match.
Look at this position. This is wild. This is just wild. Somehow it feels like white is holding this. And the clock, the clock almost cost.
Oh, it's sneaky.
Mm-hmm. So now where do we play if we're white? We can't take the rook, of course, because promote.
So William is down 1-0 in this match. So
yeah, he really needs a point here.
It's really crucial that he gets a point, or at least half a point, but it looks like he should be playing for a point.
Jerry, you know what, Chris, could I ask you a favor? Or Jerry, if you're still in the chat, let's do it this way. Chris and I are about to take a short break. When we go to break, Jerry, we are going to put up the match score. Could you double check our score and make sure it matches up with what you've got so that we're on the same page in terms of our board scores and our match score? We would really appreciate it if you would check that out for us.
And he said he will certainly do that.
Great. Perfect.
I think that's what okie dokie means in Irish.
It's certainly what it means in my neck of the woods. So now can we take G6 because we've got this covered? We can take, and Will does. Wow, look at this turnaround in this game. Chris, the last time we were on this game, I thought Will was just hopelessly dead lost.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Hopelessly dead
this
lost.
is where he had all those pins on D4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the match?
Yeah, that's the match. That's the game. Let's see how the heck he got
How
out
did
of
that D1, how did that rook on H1 ever get back into play?
So here's where we left off, where it was just like, you can't do anything about the pins.
G4?
I was going to mention that on the stream. I was like, can you play something crazy like G4? The point is very simple to go King G2. You're gaining tempo and connecting the rook so the knight can move, right? But F takes G3, of course. Oh, and King G2, okay. Wow, look at this. He got out of the pin. What a
And-
tricky player. What a
and won
tricky player.
piece.
Well, no, he's not winning the whole
okay.
piece, right?
Okay, right.
But he all he had
But
to
he
do was
got
get
out
out of
the
the pin. He got out of the pin.
Yes.
The never-ending pin. And look at this nice deflection tactic too. What a nice wow. I am just really impressed. I'm just really impressed with Will. I'm just really what is 0-0? What's that? Oh, that must be.
Can you close that? Hey, what is 0-0?
I don't know. What is this? Oh, this was game aborted. Okay,
Oh, I bet they restarted at the wrong time controls again.
Yeah.
So because that was the second one. Can you close off that top result for me?
I will, and let's focus on the Will game here.
Yeah. So we'll wait.
He's almost won on time.
If we get this one to finish, and then we'll take a break, right?
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, because all the other games are still have plenty of time left, and we're still waiting for a few more to finish.
In fact, with the 15-second increment, I think we could even just leave this game up. Remember, they played with the wrong time control here.
Oh, okay, that's right.
We could even just leave this game up and probably go to break now if you wanted to. Rook h1 check, you take the pawn on h5, because king g5, you have rook a5. And I think Will is going to... Can you win 2 rooks against lone rook? You probably can, right?
Well,
rook a3 here looks really nice.
Yes. And there it is, it's played. h4. We're just going to take those 2 pawns, we check. There we go. Take the other pawn. With the king, and he still can't advance. Oh, he plays rook h3. Why didn't he take the a2 pawn when he had the chance? I guess you can't stop.
Chess.com keeps asking me if I'm still here, so I don't know,
I know.
how long I'm going to be able to actually go on a break.
It's okay. It will still be there when you get back, that message. Just click yes when you get back. So just leave the board up, obviously.
Okay.
So why
I'm trying to figure out the Sabina situation, why they aborted.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, because this was the game that started with the wrong time control, right?
Jerry, if you're still in chat, we had an abort on the board with Sabina.
Board 6.
Board 6. So if you could help us work that out, that would be appreciated.
And Stephen Brady. Okay, I really want. Oh, it looks like we had
Rook 3 h2.
Yeah,
it's over. Will somehow won this position.
He hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, but he's gonna win this position. You just check.
Well, King G1. You take on A3. You take on H2.
Okay, you're right. So hold on. No, I think we're gonna take on H4.
Yes, he did that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can pick up the A2 pawn at any moment, right?
Anytime you want. Yeah.
And the king cannot go up to rank 3 because of skewer.
Then we're left with the rook, 2 rooks against 1 rook, right?
Now we just go rook h2.
We assume this is a win.
You should be able to force the rook trade, right? You should be allowed
now rook h3. Yeah.
Ooh, this nice finish.
Yeah.
Nice finish, Will. Yeah. I am just shocked we won this match. Right. I can't believe it.
Take the rook and
take the rook. You take a2.
Hopefully, Will knows how to mate with a rook and a king.
Yeah. So let's take a break here because this one is finished indeed. So we'll go on a little bit of a break.
So I'm gonna mark this one up as a win real quick and then run on a break. Sure. And I'm gonna put that match score up on the scoreboard while we take a break, folks. So that was board 8. So I'm gonna mark this one up. So USA ties the score on that board, 1-1. And so I'm gonna leave the scoreboard up so that Jerry was trying to can verify that we have the scores correct. So I'm gonna transition over that scene there. Jerry, if you get a second to check those scores for us, that would be very much appreciated on our scoreboard there that we have on the screen. For now, folks, we are going to take a brief break and we will be back in a few minutes. I'll just see you when you get back, Pete.
Sounds good. I'll see you in a minute, Chris.
Okay. Hey folks, welcome to US Chess versus Ireland chess match. I'm going to take a brief shot here while Pete does his captain duties. Let's run through the scoreboard really quickly. You can see that USA is currently up 2-0 in the match. Boards 9 and board 3 are over and done with. Once a player gets to 2.5 points, that match is done. Board 9 played their 4th game for the fun of it. But so USA has 2 match wins right now, but the overall match score is looking like USA is leading on 3 boards, the 2 matches they've obviously secured, plus board 10, whereas Ireland have advantages on 3 boards too, boards 2, 7, and 12, sorry. And then the rest, the other 6 boards, USA managed to pull them all back to even scores. So they were down on a few boards, and we are back to being tied on 6 boards. So it's a 3-board advantage to USA, 3-board advantage for Ireland, and 6 boards are tied right now. So we are heading on a collision course to a 6-6 tie as the match currently stands. Of course, a lot of games are in their, a lot of matches are in their 3rd game out of 4 to be played. And it looks like the 4th game will be required in a lot of games, a lot of these matches. So it sounds like Pete is now roughly back with us. Pete, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is quickly, I think Pete has a game that he's trying to get up. It looks like it started. We're waiting for one player to move. So that's the scoreboard situation. I'm going to pop us back over to the live scenes here so that we can see this game. If White ever makes a move, is the Irish player going to move? This match is tied 1-1 right now. This is FM Stephen Brady against WGM Sabina Foisor. We had a couple of technical issues getting this particular game started, but
they are underway, it looks like, and the challenge was accepted.
They're underway, but White has not moved yet. He's still thinking about his first move, and he spent a minute on that first move so far. Hopefully the game will not auto-abort, and it did.
It did, okay. So we'll get that fixed. So,
if you can pull up a different game for me, Pete, just while...
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So let's move on. I was just, as the listeners are observing... this is the joys of organizing an international match, right? Let's go to this one because, look, this could be over. If Elliott draws, all he needs is a draw. This match is over. He has 2.5, right?
Yep. So Elliott is currently up 2-0 and has the white pieces here. So I'll try and give some brief commentary here. Pete has control of the mouse and the analysis, but I should be good with everything here. So White has... looks like material is even. The e5 pawn could come under some attack. It's blockaded by that queen on e6 right now. And White is looking to definitely come over and attack on the king side. Has a lot of space advantage. Meanwhile, Black will probably start some play over on the queen side, I'm sure, at some stage. A4 maybe, getting the rooks on the open B in the A files. Try and get some play over there. I just don't see how you get the rest of the pieces in to help that attack. It's like both queens are pinned down to stopping pawn advances. So if the black queen on e6 is stopping that e5 pawn from moving at some stage, and the white queen on d4, if that ever moves, black might be able to get some activity by pushing that d5 pawn out the way and get some open lines for the queen at some stage. So it's a very evenly balanced position right now. As you can see, both players are getting low on time. White only has 1.5 minutes left. Black has 7 minutes, although there is a 10-second increment. So the time controls are game in 15 plus 10-second increment.
You know, I was looking at this position and I was just thinking, if you're black here, where do you move? Oh, yeah, and so this move is like really makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's a good move, but what I mean by that is, okay, you can put a rook on the b file, but there's no entry point. I guess rook b5 and maybe just double and see what happens.
Yeah, I was looking at a4, just a4 and a3 and just trying to get
but I play b3.
Right.
It's just, I guess the point that I was making is it's just really hard to think of an idea for black.
Yep.
So black very quite naturally tries to play for freedom here, but I kind of think this is not a great idea because your queen is hit. So what's going to happen is after all the resulting trades, I'll just put it on the board. Well, I can't put it on the board. You must take with bishop, and then white has the move rook to e6 at the end. Yeah, and we're going to see this, I think.
We can take on g6 immediately, I guess.
I would go here first, because if you go bishop c3, I take g6 and my rook is guarded. I have the intermezzo check. Oh, no, I don't have the intermezzo check. Bishop comes back to g7.
Right.
Okay, so let's calculate this out. Rook e6, bishop c3, b c3, and then I'm picking up c or g pawn. If you go gh5, I probably just go rook h5.
Take with the
right?
rook, right?
Yeah.
Get both rooks.
So he takes immediately, which also is very logical. You are picking up a pawn. You are picking up a pawn here.
Right. So you're attacking the h6 pawn. You still have ideas of rook e6 at some stage.
And we're still working out just for the
and it looks like
the listeners out there.
Karl Boor lost the third game, so Ireland go up 2-1 in that match on board 5, I believe it is, against Conor O'Donnell.
Yeah, let's see what happened in that finish. Promotion with check, and of course the problem is if you take, there is a skewer. There is a skewer, so unfortunately Karl was just one tempo short. Oh, actually moving the rook away was his problem, right? He needed to play something like maybe king d6 first, because now you can move the rook away.
Yeah.
His king was on d6 as well. So king there, rook here. Yeah, now would be the moment for Karl to make some rook move. Although it's still very unpleasant with this pawn on d7.
Yeah, for
supported.
Because you can never trade it off because of that passed h pawn, right? So it's... This was potentially already lost at this stage. So yeah. USA goes down 2-1 in that particular match. So that means we're now down on 4 boards.
Elliott really low on the clock here, but only needs a draw.
Need to draw to secure the match point for USA to take us 3-0 up. Although I have a feeling Ireland are going to start coming back with some points at some stage here. They're getting very close to securing their first match victories too.
Okay, so give me a second. Next game.
So Pete, I'll mute you for a second and then you can let us know when you're ready to come back. So just quickly, it looks like White, just a reminder, the match situation, White only needs a draw in this position to secure a match victory, and I would assume White is better in this position. The c6 pawn is hanging. Black doesn't have, I don't think, enough counterplay to win this game unless the two rooks can sort of forge some sort of weird mating net there in the game. White can just keep. I would just take on c6, and that c5 pawn is going to be a huge threat at some stage. You can play rook f6 and trade a set of rooks off, giving that a much easier chance of securing the draw, that's for sure. But I have a feeling White's going to try and play to win this position. So, but we'll see that comes in. King e3, you just got to be careful about walking into some sort of strange mating net here. I definitely think trading a set of rooks would be a situation there.
Chris, I think I'm good.
Yep. So I'm bringing you back in, Pete.
Yeah, and he does go rook f6. Not surprisingly, you don't want to let rook f2, rook f1 come in.
Right.
You know, the issue that I was thinking of is the move you really would like to play. You don't want to let king d3 come in either. The move you really would like to play is king c2, but then that rook would have come in and given a check. Now White should be back doing okay because you check on f3, and you're going to get the black king out of your territory. Rook f3 check. Yep.
King c4. And
now we do have to be a little careful here because we don't want check and other rook coming down. So I'm not sure where he plays actually right now.
So he just goes for it. Pawn. Yeah.
This is probably, I mean, black can take a draw, but black cannot take a draw because of the match situation, right?
Right.
So to show the draw, black will simply check back and forth here. but all Elliott has to do is king c2 and king c1, and he secures himself a match victory. We'll see if he does that, or if he tries to be aggressive.
Can you play king d2, king e3, and
a king d2 I really worry about, because you let in rook b2, and all of a sudden you feel not so great about your position.
Yeah, after king e3, I think a rook e1 would have come in and won the e6 rook as well. So.
Now you can play rook b2 here, but then after c7, I think it's a draw anyway, because you just are going to have to check with the double rooks, and we're going to end up with a draw. I think this is our third match point. I think this is going to be our third match point. Yeah, this will be drawn by repetition.
And if black doesn't take the draw here, I think just run the risk of losing.
There's the draw, and Elliott wins. Congrats to Elliott.
So that is against Kieran Moynihan on board 10 there. So USA takes the match point on board 10. Let me see if I can figure out a way to update this without messing everything up. So that is, we're up 3-0 right now. That sounds really, really good.
I like that sound. I like the sound of 3-0. I don't know how we're doing on the other boards, though.
Well, theoretically, we're losing on more boards than we're winning on. So
yeah, so that's
so the
not.
match
We
situation seems a little strange right now, but yeah. So
we have like a great start now. Now we got to keep it going. So let's see if we can do that.
Right.
So I'm on, there's not much happening in this game. I'm going to pop around and let's see what we can find.
Sure.
Eric needs a win.
So just to give people the match score situation here, I'm going to pull up the scoreboard here real quick.
Sure.
So just a reminder that USA is, we've won on three boards 3, 9, and 10. And we are currently tied on various other boards, but we're losing on boards 12, 7, 5, and 2. So we're theoretically losing on 4 boards. Then we've already secured match victories on 3 boards, and the rest are tied right now. So theoretically, we're not doing as well as we would like to be doing. But we 3 match points in the bag. Is that worth 4 match points still to play for? The match situation is very much still on edge, even though it looks like it's 3-0 to USA over Ireland here. And as you can see, we're able to get the screen names of the players there. So if you're following on chess.com, you can see the actual players' names there if you want to go and do that. Of course, we're bringing you the live coverage of the games as well, so you can stick with us for coverage as we complete the rest of this match. And we see it's getting very exciting here, Pete. So how are we looking in this game here that we're looking at?
I'm not sure. I feel like Eric has a tiny advantage. He is down theoretically 2 pieces to a rook, but if we consider the strength of his rook,
Eric's problem here is that he's down 2-0 in the match, right? So
that's the bigger problem.
Anything but a win for black here secures a match point here for Ireland. So
the good news is, this is a very imbalanced position, right? You have 2 pieces against a rook. Okay, that favors white. You have this lovely, almost an Alekine's gun on the e-file if we could just switch the location of the queen and rook. So you have tons of pressure, complete dominance of the e-file. I feel like white's pieces are a little oddly placed, for lack of a better way to describe that.
Sure.
They're not exactly, causing black any headaches at the moment.
Not yet.
Not yet. So he's going to have an opportunity here to play for a win.
Right.
And let's see if he can pull it off. I'm going to move around. Here's another tied match. And wow, what a position.
Yeah.
Gopal up in exchange. Queen b4 looks really nice. Maybe he goes rook b5 though, and there's nothing. Yeah, so he goes queen d8 just to keep an eye on everything. c6 is a nice little cheapo, where you tag the rook and you get to trade off one of these annoying pawns.
So this match is currently tied, and this is game 3 of this match, I believe, right? So
correct. Yeah, correct.
So just a quick shout out to John Hartman, who's in the chat. Hi, John. Welcome to the broadcast. John Hartman is the editor of Chess Life, and he's had a couple of issues now, June and July issues recently. And
looked fantastic, by the way.
Yep, no, very good. And we got a question in the chat. Do tied matches count as half point each? Yes, they do. So if a match finishes 2-2, that will count as a half a point for each team. So yeah.
So this is a really fascinating game. White has a ton more space, and he's also got 2 pawns against the exchange.
Those 2 central pawns look very nice if you can keep them, right? But
yeah, can you keep them? So okay, let's say we hit it with c6. White goes d6, and then we play queen b6, and the rook is trapped, right? So we can play c6 here. c6, d6, queen b6. Where do you put the rook? How do you save the rook? So c6, he has to go rook b7, and then we get to disrupt the center pawns. But then we have a new problem. Then we have this to deal with, right? This is a nice move. Okay, I like this move. So let's see. If he goes rook takes b7, I think we're just going to play any move to attack this pawn, like queen e7, rook e8, and the threat would be remove the guard, take the pawn. Yeah, so I'm anticipating one of these moves. I think I prefer rook e8 because you also keep the pressure on this guy. So let's see, rook e8 would be my move. Queen e7 also looks good. I can join you if you have that facility. Can we bring Jerry on the show?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Well, I'd love to have you on, Jerry, if we had set it up.
I was just typing a response to him, actually, so we would have really... it looks like Sabina's looking for a little bit of help, so...
So I'm gonna pop off for a minute and help out Sabina, and hopefully we can get this resolved so she can get...
Sure.
She has started a game, but it's a 5-3 game, I think, which was supposed to be the tiebreaker. So let me chat with Jerry here.
Sure. Let me. I'm just gonna. If you want to leave us with a game that we can look at.
Sure. The one that I think I want to stick with is, let me find it. Let's stick with the Eric Rosen game. That's a critical game.
Sure. Okay. All right. We'll catch you.
And I'm gonna just mute myself.
Yep. So while Pete's gone here, we can have a look at this game. So Black does need to win this game actually to still leave himself chances in the match. So White has 2 pieces for the exchange. Just needs to get those pieces into play and make use of them at some point. So Black does have 2 pawns for the has a rook and 2 pawns for the two minor pieces. And as players get low on time here, it should liven things up. What is White's plan here? You're going to move somewhere where you can give yourself a discovered attack with that knight. Like queen d3. I mean, yeah, so Al moves a different piece and gets another discovered attack with the knight. So, I mean, Black theoretically wants to keep those rooks on the e-file, but I'm not quite sure. I guess you got rook e1 check right now, which does that. Just gotta watch. Rook e1, king g2, and then what do you do? Like, there's nothing. Like, the e1 square is the only sort of entry point on the e-file. Wow, and what is g6? Okay, so he's given White a free move with that knight. Where can it go? It goes back to e3, rook e7. And of course, you've covered the f5 square now, so the knight cannot go back to f5. So these knights the black pawns are doing a very good job of holding these knights out of the position right now. So if Black can just get consolidated, the b4 pawn is hanging. Rook h2. Yeah, h6 may become a bit of a weak point because of the g6 push. Okay, so let's bring Pete back into the commentary right now. It looks like Pete's back from his captain duties for a second or two. Hey Pete, how you doing?
Good. I think what we're going to do, and we're working it out with Jerry Graham from Ireland, is in the true spirit of an international friendly, we're just going to let him play that time control. But
Okay.
we'll get confirmation from that from Jerry in a little bit here, and they're going to play a quicker time control. And why not? It's the spirit of chess is just having a good time, having fun, and enjoying the game, and we're okay with that if that's what they want to do. There's nothing really at stake other than pride. Of course, we want to crush the Irish team. So let's crush them in any time control, any place, anytime, anywhere, with or without soda bread. Which, by the way, I have to say, I love soda bread. I don't know. Are you a fan or not? You don't, not really.
I can't say I've ever really had soda bread. What is soda bread?
So it's a specific type of bread, which I believe, I don't know, Jerry, perhaps if you're still there, can correct me or help me out on this. I believe it's traditionally Irish. And it's served with pretty much any meal you want. At least it was when I was over in Ireland last fall. And additionally, we had, where I went to school, I went to Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. Shout out to the Cyclones, go Clones. If there's any ISU fans out there, we had a restaurant called Dublin Bay. And of course, as you can imagine, it was an Irish place, and they made the best soda bread I've ever had outside of Ireland. It was just absolutely fantastic. And of course, we have a user who is called the soda bread in our match, which I believe this is Peter Carroll. Let's just double check. Yeah, this is Peter Carroll. Yeah. So Peter, I just really thoroughly approve of your. Yeah, there you go. Jerry says it's a traditional Irish bread, great with Guinness, and I could not agree more.
What isn't great with Guinness? I mean, come on.
That's true. I mean, yeah, pretty much anything. So yeah, soda bread. I'm a big fan. Long story short.
Yeah. So if you just go back to that Eric Rosen game, I think Eric was in some real difficulty there after.
He missed Bishop F5. Yeah.
Right. He's
I'm actually going to tab away though because look, we've got this game both players 30 seconds or less.
20 seconds.
I feel like Atulya is in serious trouble because this
match is currently tied 1-1 as well. But if Ireland start getting the edge in some of these 1-1 ties, it's going to be looking bad for USA. Even though we're up 3-0 in the match.
Oh wait, wow! Look at this move. I don't know if he's going to spot it. Knight C2. The point is the rook cannot take because of Queen E4 check. And if you do, he didn't spot it. The idea was to reroute to Knight D4. As well as covering the E1 score. So the knight is going to land on D4 and then F5, shutting down the G-file pressure. Wow, maybe Atulya is actually doing well here. My first instinct was he's in serious trouble because of this E-pawn, because of this pressure. But I picture the knight landing here and then here, and I see the queen and the rook on the B and D files. This is an incredibly sharp game. I want to stick with this one if you're okay with it, Chris.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, now knight is coming to F5, and it's going to gain tempo as well. Can he go knight D4? Is there something wrong with knight D4 here?
The only thing that can capture it is the queen, and I can't imagine that's any good answer to knight D4.
So queen B1, he's setting up knight D4. Because, he wants to cover the first rank.
Yeah. So the king is going to run out the other way by F3 and G2.
But check this move out. So he goes that way. I was thinking, you want to just control the first rank. I think rook d1 was the way to do it. But now imagine a knight landing on f5. Yeah, that's a problem. Bishop d3, only move.
Right.
And now what do we play? Is this king going to run out? I think this king's going to run out. And the queen is going to actually be kind of caught off sides here. Yeah, I think Atulya is just looking for a tactic now. Yeah, he's feeling like there's got to be something.
There's no rook lifts.
Yeah, so reactivating the queen makes sense. The problem is he's hanging this pawn. And can you take on a3 after he takes that pawn? I don't know if you can.
I think you have to.
Yeah, but then rook c7. What do you do about rook c7? Yeah, queen take a3, rook c7. Rook c7, yeah. Knight e6 is going to be forced. Although, oh no, hold on, counterpunch, look at this. Discovery and the rook is hit. What do you do about that? Discovery and the rook is hit. Atulya with a really nice tactical shot here might have just won this game to put US up 2-1 on this board. Yeah, I think Alex Lopez is recognizing the mistake he's made.
Queen
takes D3, and that's it. Up a piece. Well, I guess he does still have 4 pawns to 2. The problem is I think F4 is also falling here after rook will take with check. Okay, so he's holding F4, but you can play rook D4.
Right, the F3 pawn goes.
You can also play... Oh, yes, you can, of course, play this. The knight finally gets to his dream square.
Yeah,
I was going to say you could also play G6.
Well, I thought you were hanging G7 there at one stage. But of course
Knight F5 check, discovered attack. Oh, no, it's over. Now it's resigns. Yeah.
Wow, and that turned around on a dime there. You know, that was one stage winning for white, then winning for black. It's crazy. But that does indeed put USA up 2-1. Atulya Shetty getting the win there from an unclear position, let's just say that, and securing a 2-1 edge for USA on the top board in board 1. So, which was looking much worse at one stage than that. So yeah, it looks like we have another result in as well. Komodo Dragon for Ireland did win.
Ooh, Gopal took the loss.
So that puts Ireland up 2-1 on board.
So Gopal must win with white on board 4. Must win with white.
Yeah.
Must win. Let's see what happened in this game. So, whoa. Oh, okay. We have the next game between Atulya starting. So I'm gonna close out this one that ended, and I'm gonna pick up a game here. Let's pick up this game because Julian Proleko, his opponent is down to only 15 seconds. And what's happening in the position? White is up a piece. Am I seeing that right?
White
is just up a piece here. Now he's got to be able to trade the A pawn for the B pawn, but he can't because there's bishop A3. So that means that if white keeps the B pawn, white will win. White can and will win. So this is a nice little trick. He wants rook C2, but bishop A3. Yeah, maybe he should have gone rook there so that it doesn't matter. I think.
I don't think you could ever stop bishop A3, right?
Oh, but we're white. Julian is white. So we're winning this game. Julian is white. So this is going to be a match win, right? Because it's 2.5.
It's going to be a match win on this one, right? So this is one of the currently tied matches that can go either way.
Okay, I'm moving around here. I'm sorry to move, Chris. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. It looks like that one's swinging in the USA's favor.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to switch to this one because this is one where we need a win. The match score says 1-0, but I believe it's 2-0, right? Is Karl down 2-0?
Karl is down 2-0, so we do need a win in this particular game. So
okay,
Karl
so how's he doing?
Bernard KD, so black. So we're always viewing the games from USA's perspective.
Correct.
Here.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be hard for him to win, I think.
There's a question in the chat saying it's 3-0. Does that mean US has won 3 of the mini matches so far? That's exactly what that 3-0 score means right now. Is that US has won 3 of the mini matches, but there are various. Ireland are up 2-0 and 2-1 in 1, 2, 3, 4 matches right now. So.
Right, so we're in. By no means are we in what I would consider safe territory at all. I don't even know if we're in advantage territory because
I think it's well, depending on the Julian game, it could be 4-4 and the rest are tied. So right. Ireland definitely have just as much of an advantage as we have. Let's put it that way. So assuming white does go,
which is what we want, right? You really want you want a competitive match. You want it to come down to the final few games. So we're getting a great match in terms of competitive spirit, which was our goal.
Oh, that's
if you're just joining the show, we talked earlier about arranging the match and getting it set up. And our goal when we put together the US team, Ireland, captained by Jerry Graham, who is in the chat, shout out to Jerry, sent us a roster. And they said, here's the players on our team. And then our goal when we were arranging our own team, our own roster, was to try to match up with them as best we could rating-wise. And so we did that. Oh, nice little trick. Nice little trick. That's cool. Let's show that real quick. Okay, so let's show that real quick. I brought up an analysis board. If white takes, this is now suddenly just a dead draw because we have wrong color rook pawn. Really important to know if you don't know this endgame. black doesn't even have to try hard. You just stick the king right here.
Yeah.
And you move back and forth. I guess the bishop is covering that, so you move back and forth. And what's going to happen here is either you stalemate them, that's stalemate, good game. Or if you give them a square to come out of the corner, you can never get them off of the square A8. You have the wrong color rook pawn. This is a rook queening on a white square, but you have a dark square bishop. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get that king off of the square A8? The answer is you're not, and it's just going to sit there. You know, you can go back and let it come out.
And I am seeing that Julian actually did win that game, and therefore wins the match 2.5, 1.5 in USA's favor.
The bishop can.
that means it's going to be 4-0 right now, which is going to look really strange when the final score comes in at something much closer than a 4-0 advantage from USA's perspective.
Right. This feels sort of like an election, right? The early states come in your favor, and then as the night goes on, you're like, oh, we lost another one.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move around. Let's head back to this game. This is a really critical game, really wild game that's been going on here on board 2, where Eric Rosen absolutely must win to stay in the match, and he's making a comeback here right at the end. His opponent very low on time. Eric's bullet skill is going to take over. King G7. But then there's Rook H7, and that's it. So you must play Rook E8. If bishop takes, rook recaptures. You must play Rook E8 because King G7, Rook H7. That's ball game. And Queen F8. So he's got to go Rook E8. He does. He finds it.
Can you trade off the queen to Queen F5?
I don't know. I think he's going to take. Oh, but wait, Queen takes F3. That's mate, and Rook E1. The game is over. Rook E1. There's no stopping mate. Rook E1. Wow, that escalated quickly. That escalated quickly. We came into this game at exactly the right moment.
Yes, we did. So Eric manages to win with the black pieces and leaves himself a chance of eventually splitting this match. He was down 2-0 before that particular game. So now the match is 2-1.
And a must-win game with white for Eric. If he can hold this match somehow, that's huge for the American team. That's just huge if he can somehow hold this match.
Yeah. So, there's still a couple of games there that look like short on time. Bernard, KD against
Okay. I'm going to pop to those in just a second. I just want to show this game. I really like what Atulya is doing here. Look, he knows he only needs a draw to win. Plays a really nice, solid position, not taking any risks. Very good, solid team strategy. Bernard must win to stay in the match, and I just don't see it. I don't see it. This is looking like, his rook is a little more active. Golden rule of rook endgames is activate the rook, but there's not enough here, I don't think, to win. So that's going to be a loss. This is an even match, 1-1, but Will's position is looking really, really bad. There's going to be a piece landing on F6. The queen's going to come over and try to mate, and I don't know what he does about it. I think this is a loss.
The black queen is on pre right now, I guess. So,
right, you got to save it, but now just pick a piece and put it on F6 or H6, and it's probably winning. Actually, so it's funny that I said that. The top 3 moves: bishop F6, bishop H6, knight F6, and they're all like +4 or more. But literally, you look at this position and it's just like pick any of these pieces, put them on either square, and you're probably winning on the spot.
And despite what it says on the screen, this match is actually tied 1-1.
Right. So let's pop around. Where's some other games? Do we have any time? Oh, wow, look at this. Sabina playing by the way, this was a 5+3 blitz game. They played the incorrect time control. Sabina with white appears to be in a bit of trouble because F1 is a queen. F1 is a queen.
Why? Well, you can't play F1 right now because of the pin, but...
Yeah. And this one, again, they played a faster time control, incorrect time control, so we need Sabina to make a comeback in the next blitz game.
Right. So this
she did pick a piece and put it on F6.
Yeah.
I don't think you can play King F8. I mean, I guess you could, but...
Right. So just to remind people, this is women's FIDE master Trisha Kanyamarala playing for Ireland with the white pieces here against William Aramil for USA. Both players rated around 2180, 2190 FIDE. So it's very evenly matched in terms of FIDE ratings for these guys.
William, by the way, very, very strong blitz player, and has also been a commentator on the US Chess channel. He commentated both the 2018 K-12 grades championships as well as the 2018 US Open for us. Really great insights when he comments a game. And shout out to Will with Dynamic Chess. Just a good guy.
And just to answer a quick question well, it wasn't a question, it was more of a statement there in the chat. We have a very own Colorado player, Gunnar Andersen, playing right now. Gunnar, I don't think, is playing right now. He already secured his match some time ago, so if he's playing, he's not necessarily playing as part of the match anymore. But he already won his match 3.5 half. It was 3-0 officially, but they played the fourth game, so we threw that in there for standings. But it looks like Sabina did go on and lose that game, and Karl Boor's game did finish in...
Which, by the way, we need to give Ireland a match point.
So we do. So that actually secures the first match point for Ireland. So congratulations to Conor O'Donnell for doing that and putting Ireland on the board there. Let me see if I can catch up all my scoreboards here. Just
yeah. So is that 4-1 in favor?
It is going to be 4-1.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ireland will go to 4-1. I'm going to catch up my individual scoreboards first and then come back and take care of the main scoreboard. Not that you guys can see any of this stuff, but...
Yeah, interesting place here to agree to a draw for Karl. I mean, he needs a win. He's down a pawn, but he does have, knight versus bishop, which in a blitz game, although I guess maybe that knight's disappearing, but in a blitz game, knight versus bishop can be sometimes even nice for the knight because it's a little trickier. Okay, so let's see. Oh, this is a game we can take this one off. That one has concluded.
Let's put a 1.
Will's game. Will is like
scoreboard for Ireland. Yeah.
Will is like somehow holding on here, but it doesn't look good. Yeah, queen there, and what do you do? How do you stop queen g8? I don't think you can. Oh, queen g8, mate in 1.
Oops.
Yeah, missed the mate.
I think I made an oopsie with my scoreboard. Sabina lost, right?
Did she? Was this game 2? No, that was game 1. So here's game 2. Sabina did lose game 3. Sorry, so this is game 4, yeah.
So what's the current score in this one? Is it
should be 2-1 in favor of the opponent. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right, that's what I figured. So let me go ahead and correct that. So I think I had that wrong. Oops.
And in this position, actually, I think Sabina's doing pretty well.
Trying to sneak some extra points to USA here.
I don't mind that. Don't say anything to Jerry. Jerry, if you're in the chat, Chris is not trying to sneak extra points to USA. Please ignore everything that he just said. Karl's still fighting. I mean, he absolutely needs a win here. He's down 2-0 in the match. He's still fighting.
Yeah, so this is Karl Dehmelt. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we already lost a match with Karl Boor. But Karl Dehmelt is down 2-0 against Stephen Moran. So we do need a win in this game to keep the match alive.
Right. And then Elliott only needed a draw, but he already got that, right? Yeah, he's already won his match, so they're just playing a final round just for funsies. I don't think Karl can win this. Too much material has come off the board. This just looks like a draw to me. I don't see how you make any winning attempts even, honestly. So Gopal needs a win to tie the match. Eric needs a win to tie the match. And here we need a draw to win the match.
Yep.
And Sabina needs a win to tie the match. Are all other matches complete other than these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I only
6?
have 5. I only have 5 matches complete. I don't think the bottom board, Soda Bread against E4 of Hearts, has started their 3rd game yet.
Okay. So let's see. So we're still missing the game between Akash, right?
But that says E405 won by resignation.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up real quick.
And it says it's tied 1.5 there. Dude, can you click on that? on.
I'm gonna pull up his game history and just see.
Right. I was gonna say, can you click on just where it says won by resignation and just see if we're missing a result?
No, they've only played 3 games. And I show 1.5, 1.5.
1.5. Okay, so I just missed. I just missed a win for a cash there somehow on my scoreboard. So let me update that. So, but they still have 1 game left to go, and it looks like they've not started the 4th game yet.
Right, and that should be the last game that we need, or the last match that we need a resolution for, other than the ones that we're currently following.
Well, I'm seeing someone saying in the chat Soda Bread won, and I don't think that is correct. So it looks like it's
Akash says just taking a quick break, should be starting in a few minutes. So thank you for the update, Akash.
So, maybe Akash can confirm that it is 1.5 in his match. So he's got 1 more game to go.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So.
Unfortunately, we just lost another match. Gopal, what happened to his king? So. Something very unfortunate happened here. What happened? Okay, so B3 E5.
So this match finished 3-1 to Killian Delaney.
F3.
Board 4.
Looks suspicious, but okay. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's all theory, for all I know. But something went horribly wrong here. G takes F3. So here's what went horribly wrong. By playing knight c3, he sort of forgot he was unguarding this pawn. So I think this was just an oversight by Gopal. I think you just play d3 here and you're fine. But by playing knight c3, there's this really nice in-between move. And let me go back to that game. There's this really nice in-between move. Bishop takes f3. The point is, if you take with the pawn, everything is falling apart. Right. There's just devastation everywhere. So just an opening error here by Gopal. But Gopal, thank you for representing Team USA, and congratulations to Killian Delaney, knocking out one of our ringers. I thought Gopal was gonna really be a tough out, but congratulations to Killian Delaney. Very well played match, and that brings us to 4-2, right? 4-2, and so 6 matches still in play. And I'm just going to quickly bring up the scoreboard here on the screen so people can see where we are with the scoreboard. So hopefully you can all see that there are still 6 matches still in play. So boards 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 12 are still in play. USA has the advantage on board 1. Ireland has the advantage on boards 2, 6, 7, and boards 8 and 12 are tied. Is William still playing? Did he lose that one? He's still playing. He lost his 3rd game, so it should be 2-1 in favor of Trisha, and they're playing game 4 right now. William with white, I think.
Let me go ahead and update that. So Ireland has the advantage on board 8 by a score of 2-1. So Ireland does have the advantage on 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the boards remaining in play. 1 is tied, and USA advantage on board 1. So yeah, it's very even though the match score situation is 4-2 to USA right now. Ireland has a huge advantage on 4 of the boards. Most of these matches are in now game 4. I still have Stephen Moran and Karl Dehmelt in game. Yeah,
that
3.
game is still going. Karl with a tremendous fight. Yeah.
Let me go back and have a look at that so we can see what you're looking at here. So yeah, so if Ireland, if anything, if this is a draw, then Ireland takes another match point.
Right.
So an Ireland is up 2-1 on boards 2, 6, and 8. Right
so now. I'm sticking with this game. This is definitely the fastest action game we have going here. Yeah. And we need a win. Black needs a win to tie the match. White only needs a draw.
So this is Sabina Foisor against Stephen Brady.
Right. And very, very equalish position at the moment. Although opening this bishop, I'm starting to like white a little bit. So I'm worried a little bit here for Sabina. This is a very double-edged move because now if Sabina can pull it off, this knight can eventually get back to the square d4. And that's easier said than done because, of course, at the moment you're supporting f5. You don't really want to play f4 because your pawns start to get stuck on dark squares. Your bishop is on a dark square. The e5 pawn is going to be a forever target. Yeah, so I like Sabina's move here, c6, keeping that knight out. Now the question is, how do we bring this piece back into the game? Because, for example, if you can picture a position where, so she plays b5, but now c5, and this knight is really lonely over here. I don't know if it ever gets back.
The knight on the rim is dim, huh?
In this case, I think very much so, yeah. Very much so. Now, the other part of this is I don't know where white makes progress necessarily immediately. So you might have a little bit of time to figure out what to do here. But let's say I give you all the time in the world. What do you do with this piece? I'm not sure. I think knight g4, bishop g7 is going to be forced to cover this. And now you can push the knight back.
The other knight is coming to d3 maybe to put more pressure on e5.
I think you got to play h5 here. If you leave that knight there too long.
The white rook.
But the bigger problem is this. That's the bigger problem. And where is black's target? Like, where does black try to do something? And you got to try something, right?
We have Julian Proleco actually in our chat asking about the match. So you're right, Julian, your match was very important, but it's not as one-sided as 4-2 makes it out to seem right now. So this could very well end up Ireland's match still based on what's going on.
I think his point was that the bishop on a1 is bad, similar to the knight. The problem is, though, this bishop at the moment has a role in the game.
Oh, okay.
Even if it's quote unquote trapped and it can't really move anywhere, it has a very important role. This knight does not have a role.
Stopping that knight, yeah, and it's still putting pressure on e5, and it's still actually doing something.
Yeah, here I think the entire black queen side is falling apart here, unfortunately. Okay, so let's move on. Let's check in with a couple of our other games. Karl still trying to eke this one out. I don't think that's going to really go anywhere.
There's no reason for him to take a draw if a draw loses the match. So he can keep playing that, I guess, forever.
Eric needing a win. We saw a Dutch defense. The first time Eric had white, we saw the same Dutch defense again. And by the way, remember my comment, right? In game one in this position,
G6.
He played G6, and that was well met by E4. I think anyone would agree Eric had an advantage right off the bat. And look at this. In game two, of course, he corrects that problem. So we've got a Dutch defense. This is actually a line that I studied a few times. The idea is that white gives up the bishop on f6 in order to sort of cripple these pawns. And then eventually you're looking for long-term play against them. So you can see black here is making a bid for activity, but I kind of think this is not a great time for that, right? Because, hold on, wait, what happened here? Okay, he didn't play g5. I was going to say, if you played g5, you could play hg5 and the bishop is hit. So he goes knight b6. Yeah.
And this is where we're at.
This is where we're at. Maybe something like queen f3. I don't know if it's necessary to keep this knight out of b4. Let's just show, I'll bring up an analysis board real quick to show what could happen. I don't think queen f3 is the right move, but let's say if you do play queen f3, knight c4, and now you want to watch out because if you castle queenside in a position like this, there's this nice little trick that we see happen sometimes. And I'll just show the whole thing. Queen b4, you pick the knight back up, the king is on the run, and you've won a pawn as well. So
your e6 bishop might be hanging in a certain
minor
spot.
Technical difficulty.
I guess you take on f4 first.
Yeah, you'll just grab here. They take whatever. You take whatever. And yeah, so that's just a nice little trick to watch out for. A lot of players think I can ignore knight c4 because I'll just castle. But if the queen has access to the b4 square, it actually doesn't work. I've seen this happen in a lot of students' games, usually in like a dragon or something like that. Or like some kind of a Sicilian, Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back to our game.
Yeah.
So Sabina, her queenside did get in trouble here, and I think this is just very bad news. Here's a game we haven't checked in on. So what's happening here? Wow, this is wild. Okay, so we've got like some serious problems, but we've also got an extra piece.
Extra piece for 3 pawns, though?
Yeah.
And an attack.
And an attack. This is not so simple. This is not so simple. White only needs a draw, but can he achieve that? Karl, this is now just dead drawn. Yeah, there's no ways for winning attempts. This is one we've already won.
Someone could just take a pawn there. And...
Exactly. Just sack a piece for a pawn, and that's the end of the game. Okay, so Eric needing a win. At the very least, one thing I'll say, he's got a position where there's some action. He hasn't committed to castling either side. There's some imbalance, right? There's 2 bishops against knight and bishop. So it's imbalanced. There's action on both sides of the board. You could do worse, right? When you need a win, you could do worse in terms of finding a position to play for a win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as we saw in the last game, just about anything can happen, right? I think White was winning that up until he blended mate in 2.
So what's happening here? Will also needs a win. Lots of material still left on the board. That's good. Early in the game.
And it looks like we did get a draw in...
This hole has a problem.
Karl Dehmelt against Moran, so that does secure another match point for Ireland.
Congratulations to Stephen Moran. Very, very good game. And Karl Dehmelt, congratulations to you also. Karl, we appreciate you playing for Team USA. So good job, you two. I'm gonna move around. Let's check out the soda bread, my favorite Irish delicacy. That's a terrible Irish accent, so all the Irish viewers out there are like ashamed for me right now.
I refused to try.
Yeah. But I do like some soda bread. It's really good stuff. So I love the username here.
Let me give Ireland the 3rd point of the match. So it's interesting. We haven't had a tied match yet. So it's been 4-3, and it's been a blood.
Blood. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what you want, right? Exciting. I can just kind of, I can just kind of sense us going towards a 6-6 final. And if we do that, by the way, that's going to end up in a bullet playoff for the all the cookies, as they say. So this was a close Sicilian, and White was able to get in the very thematic f4, f5 push, expanding on the king side, looking for some attacking chances there. Black is seeking some counterplay. I'm not sure where that's going to come just yet. The knight on e5 is not really stable. It can be hit at some point. You don't want to do it right away because there will be knight c4. So maybe in this position you go b3 and then d4, just driving this knight away. And if you can kind of picture those moves happening, where does the knight go? And meanwhile the white pawn center is expanding. So White's probably got a slight pull here, is my thinking. I don't know if it's serious yet, but White has a slight pull.
I think you already said that match was tied 1.5, 1.5, right? So, yeah. So this one is still Atulya Shetty only needing a draw to win the match for USA, but the rook and that bishop are tied down. At least now with the queen protecting the bishop, you can move the rook.
Yeah, I mean, he's making a threat to unravel. That's the way to think of this move, queen e4, is it's a threat to unravel. So, like, if you just imagine black passing, right? We make a passing move, which I can't do. But let's just imagine black passing. Rook f1 is actually just the end of the game. So, because there's the threat queen e8 check.
Yep.
Now, actually, he'll probably go rook f1 here, but I just realized you also have queen e2 covering queen e8 check.
Right.
So I think that's what we might see in this position.
If you trade the queens off, does White's position become any easier? Is it easier to come in there and get those?
Not if you lose the e file as well.
Like
right?
c1, attack that c pawn that can't really go anywhere.
Let me pull up an analysis board and let's look at some of these lines. So let's say rook f1, queen e2. We trade the queens off. Now I would love to play rook e1 here. So that's why I was thinking maybe. I wonder if you could play in this position.
Rook e1.
Well, we can't play rook e1 because queen takes,
check.
And if you take with the rook, there's a check.
Yeah.
And if you take with the bishop, you're hanging material. And that's a really important pawn because it's the only thing in the way of all this nastiness.
Right.
So after queen e2, take, rook take, I guess we go rook c1, but then how do you deal with this? Because you can't take, there's rook b1 check again if you take the pawn. So actually, now that I look at this a little more carefully, maybe the move here is not rook f1. Maybe it's rook e1. And I'll show the point. It's actually kind of nice. You're guarding b3, because if they take b3, now the queen and rook are not connected on the second rank anymore. So now you just go back rook f1. But actually queen e3. They're still connected. Okay, so we can't do that.
I think what you do first is you play queen e8 check and then rook e1.
Yeah, f1. Queen e8. That's a good point. Rook take, very good point. I didn't see that.
And then rook f1 at the end of it, right?
Yeah. Although, hold on. Do I have some... I still have cheapos all over the place, don't I? And the point is, if you move your queen away, rook e1 is actually, oops.
Right.
And if you trade queens, then I've got that pawn.
Yeah.
So this is actually a really tricky conversion. Let's see how he handled it.
Hang on.
Sabina drawn, so that match is over. Yeah.
So Sabina lost her match, 2.5, 1.5. So that ties the match for Ireland.
Yeah, like I said, it's election night, right? All the early states come in your favor, and then slowly.
So the match is now tied 4-4.
The Irish are coming.
The only problem is, I think, is Ireland still has quite an advantage on some of the boards here. So let me update. Update some of these scores here, and then we had
yeah, that's a good point. Let's check the player's bullet rating. So 2600 bullet. Let's check the player's bullet ratings in the case of a tie-off. That's going to be really close. Both of them 2600 bullet players. That should be really good if it gets there. But honestly, if Atulya wins this game, that puts us in pretty good position to win the match. Or rather, if he just draws this game, if Atulya can manage to not lose, we're in excellent shape.
Right, so here's the situation right now. The match is tied 4-4, and in the 4 remaining matches we have Atulya is up 2-1, Eric Rosen is down 2-1, William Aramil is down 2-1, and Akash and Peter Karl are tied 1.5, 1.5. So from my calculation, we're still theoretically losing on 2 matches and winning on 1 match, and the other one is tied right now. So if everything keeps the advantage the way it is, Ireland would actually win this 6.5, 5.5. So USA still does need to pull out a result on one of these other boards somewhere. So whether that's winning on the board 12, sort of getting a win there and winning that, or sneaking a half point, rescuing a half point on William Aramil or Eric Rosen's match.
Yeah, by the way, Amadeus Burrito, which I love the username Amadeus Burrito, points out that it's now 4-4 after we were up 4-0.
4-0, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
right.
It was 4-0, although we were well aware that Ireland were winning those other matches. They just hadn't quite put the nail in the coffin, which they have now. So so we're back to tied 4-4, and with all to play for in 4 matches left. So this is fun.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what's going to happen in this position in this match right now. Right. We are any result is on the table, and I gotta say I feel a little more comfortable about Ireland's chances than our own.
Yeah. Do we? How's William looking?
So let's take a quick look at all the really critical games. So here Eric needs to win, and I kind of like his position, and I'll explain why. If this trade ever occurs, then we're left with a very nice knight against a kind of a meh bishop, which might get stuck on guard duty. If this trade never occurs, I don't know what to do with this bishop either, at least in the short term. So the minor pieces, I think, are Eric's knights I prefer to the 2 bishops in this particular instance. Additionally, there's going to be something eventually happening on the b file. So Eric probably has some slight pull in this position.
Is White going to castle to get the h1 rook into play, or is White going to play king d2? I want
to go king d2, but that's kind of scary, right?
Right.
I don't think you want to castle because the moment you castle, I think maybe we almost even snap g5 or snap take if you castle.
So that means you're going to play without that h1 rook for a little while, I think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you go king d2 and then one of these squares just to get out of the scope of the rook.
Yeah. Did black
I would be shocked if you castle. I would be shocked. One thing you could do, you could go king f1 to g2, leaving the rook on the h file, because then on g5 you just take it. So actually, this is kind of nice. Remember what I was just saying about the minor pieces, right? So look, he actually wants to trade the bishop for this knight instead of this knight.
Right.
So very nice move, bishop f8 by Mr. Kanyamarala. Let's go to the next game. Will, way up on the clock. Maybe slightly better in the position. Let's see. So a knight could land on c6 at some point. Probably you don't want to play it right away because then your pawn is here. You might want to go put some things on the c file. If black can never move this c pawn, Will might be able to play, for some long-term advantage. In the short term, the black pieces do not paint a pretty picture here, right?
Right.
Big space advantage to white.
And a reminder that white needs to win this one to tie the match.
We need a win here. Go ahead, sorry.
Any result here other than a win for white means that Ireland will actually win this match. And as someone's pointing out in the chat, the next game that we're going to get to look at is pretty crucial because there's 3 results still possible from this particular game. So depending on the result of this game will decide the result of this match. So if white wins, USA will take. If white wins, Ireland will win the match. If black wins, USA will take the match, and if it's a draw, then the match will be tied 2-2.
Every other match, the only result possible for us is a draw or loss.
Right.
That's not true. I'm sorry. Board 2, we could win or draw. But he's right. Every other match, there's only 2 results possible. Whereas here, hold on a second. Is black suddenly winning? Because where do we put this queen? If you put the queen on h6, there's knight g4.
And if you move it away from the protection of the knight, you just win the knight on g5.
Yes, and if you put it on h4, there's h6.
All right.
So hold on, is black just suddenly winning on the spot? If Akash pulls this out, then this is a huge swing for Team USA. Then if Akash pulls this out, all we need to happen is we need white to hold this position with a draw. And we need any of these games, either one of these games, we just need 1 win and we win the match.
Just not a lot then.
Not a lot. Just minor things. But although something went wrong here because now knight takes e3 is playable. So something went wrong for Will. What went wrong? He let them take? And then he played knight e3, but perhaps that was the wrong way to go. Perhaps you should go.
Well, I'm assuming then we go back to move 17 where he played d5 was probably not.
I think d5 is probably okay. You got to try to push your advantage, right?
Well, then he captures, and then knight takes, and then this is the position we had, right? Or is knight e3 just...
I think knight e3 was the limit. I think here if you just play like some bishop move, I don't know where. Let me pull up an analysis board.
Oh, I see. Yeah, bishop f4 or something.
Something, yeah. Just some bishop square, maybe even e1. I don't know, just get it out of the way.
And then the rook is attacking that knight on d5 as well. That's pinned to the queen.
Actually, I like f4 because if we imagine that this move may be possible in some situations, then if we play f4, this move becomes, to support the knight. I think you can no longer play that move.
So I'm just going to answer a couple of quick messages in the chat here. There was some confusion about the Sabina Foisor game. They decided, yes, it was meant to be 4 rapid games. They eventually determined between themselves that they would play a couple of blitz games. That's fine. It's all in the spirit of the match. We let them do that. They both had the same time controls. Both players were happy doing that. They did that. They played the games, and Ireland ended up winning that match. We're happy to do with whatever they wanted to do, as long as they got the 4 games in and they played the match, it all counts. So it's all good from our perspective. But yes, if anyone's looking up the history of the games, you will see that they did actually play 2, I think 5 plus 3 games instead of the 15 plus 10 that they should have played.
Yeah, so here we are back in Will's game, and I just don't see anything. You put one of these pieces on d6, and I don't know where the compensation is. Maybe there's like some kind of knight g6 tactic, but everything seems guarded for black. Looks like everything's protected, so I don't know. I'm having a hard time figuring out where Will's compensation is for the pawn that he gave up. I mean, certainly his pieces all currently stand a little better, but if black can
I think you've got to play with the, you've got a couple of nice open bishops there. You've got access to that c6 square. Maybe you play rook c1 and
maybe we do this immediately.
Yeah, you
and
can.
then knight here.
Right.
I don't know that again though. I mean, black wants to trade all of their worst pieces for all of the better pieces.
Yeah, for sure. And it's looked like
huge clock advantage, but I think maybe an opportunity missed there. Meanwhile, we thought Akash was just winning, but look at what has happened. This is like a mess now. So let's go see how this played out. So we thought Akash was just winning because that knight is lost, right? So here's what white tried. White tried queen h4, h6, of course, and white took. And the point is they want to take here. So Akash accepted the knight, took again, and now king f8 actually kind of using that pawn against white, right? Refusing to open the file for the rook with a move like knight f7. Bishop takes g5. Does this work?
Where does the queen go? Can you just take on h4 now?
But then you take here?
That's okay, and then you move your queen. I know he gets a rook.
And then you take here? Okay, so he's got to take on h4, because if you don't, it's dead lost.
You play queen b6 after?
So there it goes. I guess you could even play queen takes bishop and rook back, and you're up a piece, right? So he keeps the queen. Now what, though?
Well, I guess now they just play, right?
Now they just play, yeah. I gotta say, this is like suddenly not as fun.
I think I would have preferred queen b6 to allow a c4 check and just weakening those white pawns.
I mean, maybe he wanted to try to take on d3.
I guess you can take on d3 right now, right?
Can you?
Why not?
Bishop g5.
You've got to get these pieces into play before white gets like both the rooks on the f-file somehow and manages to play something like bishop e7.
Right. That's what I'm worried about, is like, what do you play here with black? How do you do what you just said you want to do?
Right.
Because bishop g5 is a problem.
Question in the chat is what happens on knight takes f7. I guess I don't know.
That's a good question. I was looking at just rook f2.
Right.
Let's bring up an analysis board. This is definitely the critical game.
And then you gotta move the king somewhere.
How do I flip the board? Oh, I remember. Like this. Okay. So let's see. So knight f7. I was thinking you just like make some doubling rook move. I don't know where the right square is. Let's try f2. Okay, we can escape
move
the pin.
King. And then rook f1.
I mean, maybe you're just living here. Maybe you're just flat out surviving this. Actually, hold on. See, in this position, I was going to play rook f4 to try to have some, stuff to do. But hold on. What if we start with that? Maybe it's the best to start with that. Now in the same position, I'll just show that in the exact same position. Now you could maybe play this, and the idea is to do some nasty stuff. Where do you put the king? Like if you go to the H file, I get a check, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Taking f7 to me sort of feels like opening the floodgates, if you will.
Did we have a result? It looks like we had a result on board 1.
We did. So we won board 1. Okay. So we really needed that point, I think, to even have a chance.
It finished a draw, but yes. So white, America wins. USA wins on board 1. So
that was a must-have.
So that puts USA up 5-4 in the match. So let me go ahead and update that really quickly. Someday I'm sure we'll come up with an automated way of doing this. But that should be up to date as of now.
That board 1 match was a must win for us. If we don't win that game, we have no hope. But look at this. I think Eric is winning. Just simply take on e4. And I don't see your pieces are, yes, exactly. Your queen is going to get free. There's knight d6 check here.
So
well, no, not here because we seem to be in check. I forgot. Minor technical detail.
Knight d2.
Yeah, he wants to unveil the queen, right? To do all kinds of nasty stuff. Eric is actually winning. I think he might win this game, which means we hold this match as a draw. We won board 1. We hold this as a draw. We just need, what do we need? How much do we need, Chris? We're up 5-4. Is that
5-4? We still need a point and a half. So
we need a point and a half. Where are we getting our point and a half?
Well, we may get half a point from Eric's game.
And then we need a point from somewhere else.
Well, the bottom
That's
board,
not looking so great.
The bottom board could be where we get a point from. So a cash. If he can manage to unravel here, it looks like he's still thinking after bishop takes h4 and spending
his clock is low as well.
A lot of his time on this game. But if a win here would get us at least a point.
Eric won. His opponent just resigned.
Yeah.
So that's a tie. Okay, that gives us a fighting chance.
That is our first tied match.
And let's just quickly show. After
all of that, and he came back from 2-0 down to come back and win, tie that matchup.
Yeah, if only he could have won his first game with white, where I think he had a really strong edge and just didn't go queen e2. He tried some tactics.
So that moves the score to 5.5.
I love Julian's comment here. I think in the position where black has more queens, black should be better objectively. I completely agree, Julian. It's just practically speaking, this is a really difficult conversion here. Like practically speaking.
Right. So what is it? Queen for a rook? And rook and a couple of pawns,
yeah.
But yeah.
In this position, if you could just like put your king anywhere over here, you'd probably be fine. But yeah.
Yeah, if white gets more material here, it could get a little.
And we're seeing that line that I suggested, by the way, actually. Okay, so king g8 probably. I agree with Julian. King g8 is probably the move because g7 you introduce unnecessary checks. King g8, rook f1. Knight e5 to stop rook check. You got to play king g8 here, I think. Only move. Let's go Akash. Let's see if we can do this. Will, again, as has been the case the entire match, with a huge time advantage.
Right.
Let's get to the current position. We're not in the current position. Here's the current position.
There we go. That's still a huge time advantage. The opponent has 30.
But Will does need a win. Trisha. Right? Will does need a win in this match.
He needs a win to tie the match, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So for USA to get anything out of this, white has to win this position. And white did manage to sneak a pawn back, right?
Yeah, he did. How did he get that?
The A7 pawn. Somehow he followed my little plan of sticking a knight on C6 there and managed to probably pick off A5 there with some sort of tactic because of the unprotected...
unguarded rook.
The rook wasn't unguarded. What? I guess it is because the knight and the rook on. Okay.
So we can show that tactic. If takes, queen takes, knight takes, and then actually the rook activates on d7. Very nice. Yeah. Trisha Kanyamarala very low on the clock again. This is the third game in a row.
Well, it's moves like that you fall into when you're low on time. It's 2 or 3 moves deep, not quite as obvious, and so when you only have 30 seconds, 20 seconds left, and you're playing these moves, you might fall into that. And your opponent has 7 minutes to be able to work that out. So I think there's still life for white here, mainly because of the clock.
Right.
Maybe that A. Do you think the A pawn can ruin at some stage?
Yeah, I was wondering, what if we just take and play A5 right away? The pawn will get to A7, right? So let's pull up an analysis board. I guess rook takes, and then what if we run? Maybe taking is wrong. Maybe you should not take, actually, because then the bishop is alive.
Right.
But okay, let's just put that on the board. You can't stop the pawn from getting to A7 now. And say what you want about, objectively in this position, a white pawn sitting on A7 with 30 seconds on your clock is not very fun for black.
Yeah. I mean, you get a free knight move because of the...
Oh, that's what happened.
C6, but...
He didn't trade queens, but this is what happened.
Okay. It's very exciting.
Knight C4? What's the idea? I'm trying to understand the idea.
Do you have play against the C6 knight somehow? I mean, you don't while the queen's on D5, obviously, but...
I mean, what if I just, trade... So let's just put this on the board and just play something like this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't. It's not going to let me.
Right.
So I'm queen take, rook take, and knight B4. Just what if I do that? And the idea is I'm supporting A6, and I'm also going to stick my knight on D5. So let's see. Did he do that? He did. He traded. Okay.
White must be much better here.
So let's get back to the game. Oh, no. He's still thinking after knight C4. Okay. Yeah, I do think white is better. He has a realistic chance to hold this. So let's just recap what we need to win. To win, we need one of two things to happen. We either need Akash to win. If Akash wins his game, we win the match outright. That's it, right?
Yep.
Or we need wait, is this... Oh, they're playing a 5+3 blitz playoff, but they don't actually have to. Yeah,
I think because you're... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, the players seem to be maybe under the impression they need to play some sort of blitz game to play.
I'll message Eric and let him know.
I'll let him play chess.
Okay, we'll let him play.
So it's just these two games, and then so Akash wins, we win the match, and if William wins, Akash can draw and we win the match. Does that make sense?
That does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had initially scheduled a 5+3 playoff, blitz playoff, following the two games, but there was some concern that, keep in mind, guys, in Ireland right now, and Jerry, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's almost 9:30 at night in Ireland.
It's 18 minutes past 9 p.m. Yeah. But, you are eating into their pub time, so let's remember that.
We don't want to do that. No.
So it is Saturday night in Ireland. I can't imagine many of the players, if they're old enough to go out, obviously. I'm not quite sure of the ages of all of these players, but possibly they are missing out on their regular jaunts to the pub. So maybe they're all playing from the pub. So who knows?
Yeah, here that A-pawn is running. That A-pawn is running. I don't know how it gets all the way there, but it's going to get pretty far. Will has a chance here. So again, to reset, what we need either an Aramil win coupled with an Akash win wins the match for us. An Akash win wins the match outright.
Yep.
An Aramil win and an Akash draw also wins the match.
Yes.
An Aramil loss or draw, then we need at least a draw or win from Akash to tie the match. Right? Did I say all that correctly?
A draw from Akash would tie the match.
A draw ties the match and a win wins the match.
Yes, and this is the Akash game here against Peter Karl. And both players have been putting up a very good fight.
Yeah, there's a threat here. Rook takes and queen check is a big threat. Yep.
So check and rook attack.
Oh, he missed it. Rook takes works. Rook takes finishes. Can he spot it? This is the ball game.
This could be the match for USA here.
He spotted it. He spotted it. Okay, so let's calculate. Queen takes check. Rook F2.
26 seconds on his clock when he saw that. Rook F2. What does he have? Where's the finishing move?
I guess we just go here and guard the knight. Oh, that's nice too. Okay, so let's see. Rook H4 or pawn H3, but then knight D3. Knight D3, that's it. It's over after knight d3. How do you stop knight d3? Even rook f6, knight d3. Akash is going to win this. An Akash win, I think, wins the match outright for us, doesn't it? I love it. I love it, Gunnar. Let's go. An Akash win wins the match outright for us. Nice tactics. Look at that. He spotted that tactic with 20 seconds on his clock.
Yeah, he did.
Rook h6. White is putting the pressure on, right? Because Akash's time is low. And you think you can't guard the knight because all the king squares are covered except f7, which would be a complete disaster. Bishop d8 discovered check on the queen, right? If you go king f7, bishop d8 discovered check. Sure. But no hesitation, he takes it, knight e5, and I think the Soda Bread, whose username I just absolutely love, I think the Soda Bread is realizing that there's no defense left. And Rhyme Master brings up a good point. Akash is a great bullet player. Yeah, knight g4, rook g6. You have to be a little careful. You have to be a little careful. Knight g4, rook g6. But maybe we take here, threatening mate.
Mate threats are always good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have some queen e1, queen e3 check picking up the rook on h6 if bishop g2 again.
Bishop g2, queen e1, right. You could also, king g7 is also maybe a move. Knight f3 check might be a move, followed by knight f3. Whoa, okay, so he's going for this.
He's going for the
this is not as straightforward, but maybe Akash thinks it's easier to play this position.
Right, so he's a piece up for a pawn. This should still be easily winning, right?
I don't know. King comes here, knight f7, so you can keep the king out.
I would take the pawn. I'd take the piece.
I would for sure too, but I think he just suddenly made his task a little more difficult, honestly.
Right. Yeah,
I think he thought he was making it easier, but I think he made it more difficult.
It was maybe a decision based on the clock rather than, the tactical ways are always harder to find with less time. But
right. I mean, in this position, though, bishop f1, I was looking at, I'll show the line I was looking at. Flip board. So we'll get back to that action because it is a really critical game.
Yeah, queen e4.
I was looking at this because the point is the king has to step into discovery. You can't go to h1. You hang everything.
Right.
So you have to play here and only now take. And this should be just outright winning too, right?
Yes.
How do you stop knight g5?
I don't think you do.
But okay, Akash went for the simplifying variation, low on time. And let's see where he's at now.
It was still in this position.
King g7 still there.
Yeah.
How about Will? Can Will win this?
Well, he's still got that a7 pawn. So I think while that's still on the board, anything can happen. Can he play knight b8 and just protect the pawn queening?
Yeah. Okay. So what do you do? Maybe knight b8. You take it. You have to take it, right? Knight b8. You take it, and you say, "I can hold that with a fortress." She's going to have to take. So it is happening, but I don't know that this is a win for Will. Now you must play rook a3 to b3 to make sure that pawn doesn't get too far.
Right. Well, it is only a pawn and a bishop for the exchange, but it is a this is one of these
not easy
endings. Yeah.
This is really not easy. Maybe you go rook a6 such that if b5 rook here slows the pawn down. This is not easy now. I think I preferred the position more when black couldn't get away from that pressure so simply. But it all comes down to this. If Akash wins this, then the other game is irrelevant.
Yes, because Will needs to win that game to just tie the match. But even if he ties the match...
we still need a draw or a win.
If he ties the match, so if he ties that, any result here from Akash would win the match for USA. A draw or a win. This is all going to come down to time and just finishing this off. White's only play is, do you match those kingside pawns into the king, or you just sit there and wait and say to black, you need to come and win this?
Honestly, I think you sit. I think if you march him, it might just help black a little bit.
Right.
I don't know that I like giving away bishop g2 here though. What's his idea? Maybe he'll just go a5 and no harm, no foul. But then bishop comes to c8, pawn d6. He's still covered.
I guess you need to eventually stick the knight on g6 and the bishop on c2, and then that way you'll attack the e5 pawn and potentially round it up.
That's what he's going to do, but now just h5 maybe. Bishop b7 is my other concern.
If h5, I think I'm going to play king h6 and then knight back to f7 to
and then you blockade.
Square.
Yeah.
Right.
But then again, I'm worried about. I would feel a lot better about this position if it was happening without that move. Exactly.
Right. So
bishop c8. What do you play? d6. You play d6
or d5.
I guess if the knight can jump over here, but then the kingside pawns might be a problem. This endgame is a lot harder than it appears. But as Chet has pointed out, Akash is a very good bullet player. I will say though, if the Soda Bread wins this match, then we must have a win from Will.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So if Ireland somehow wins this one.
But now I think he's stabilized. King f6, knight f7, and everything's under control.
Yeah,
right?
those two outside pass pawns are still.
You also have e5 check if you play king f6. It's got to be king f6 here. I don't even see another move that makes sense. Yeah, and he plays it. Okay, good job, Akash. And now e5 and knight f7 are both maybe on the menu. My taste is e5 because all the squares are cut from the king, and g5 is never happening. Then you might even have time to play like bishop c4 or pawn b4.
Well, you can even play king g5 here. Yeah. No.
Wow, look at this square control. Bishop will sit on d5, and then you start rounding up the pawns, right? If h6, there's even this check to... If Akash pulls this off, I mean, I'm just really, really, really impressed with his play, honestly. Really impressed with this play.
Yeah.
Gunnar Andersen says, "Don't drop your b5 pawn." Yeah, no kidding, right? That would be a problem. Do you think Akash, if it comes down to it, do you think Akash knows the bishop and knight checkmate? I'm sure he does. But I mean, we very well could come down to that.
I will admit, I had a bishop and knight checkmate against an international master in a simul, and I had to take a draw because I couldn't do it.
Especially with your clock ticking, it's kind of not so simple. The chat does not believe Akash knows the bishop and knight check. They have no confidence in his ability to pull off.
Where to go? Some faith in their teammates there.
Come on, chat. Yeah, exactly. Give your teammate a little confidence, a little faith.
Let's see. So what is the plan here? Do you have to get the e pawn?
I think you just go like this. Right, all the squares are cut, so now you just go knight f7, knight h6, and that should be enough.
And the knight g4, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but the king can get here in the meantime. Now it can't, so now just knight f7, knight h6, and that's it. So he walked into that. I don't know what the winning plan was if white had gone with the king this way.
Right. And as someone's pointing out in chat, you can do the same thing via knight e4 and...
oh, that's true, and you know what? That would actually be better because
well, he's gone the other route, so...
Oh, this works too, right?
Yeah, so the knight is holding the e4 square, so this works just as well, I think.
So let's see. Can he actually take that pawn, though? Bishop takes, king takes, h6.
Knight f7.
Knight f7, king e4.
King f6.
Yeah, white's one tempo short, right? White's one tempo short.
Right.
Because I was thinking if you play h7, h8, knight has to take, and then you take here. But white's one tempo short because you go king f6, and if they go h7, you go king g7.
Right, but the king was on g4, right? So, sorry, in my line.
Okay, so let's see. So let's calculate that again.
Bishop takes, king takes, h6. You don't even have to play knight f7 yet. You can play king f5 immediately.
And cut the king, yes. So,
right.
And I can't play king e4. I have to play h6.
Right.
So you play king f5. That's the winning move. Then if h7,
h7, knight f7. Right.
And you win. Yeah. I gotta say, Akash, you know, there was the very famous a couple weeks ago clutch chess tournament, if you remember that.
I remember it very well. I was the arbiter for that. So
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's right. You were. That was, yes, I completely forgot. So you probably remember that tournament, being that you were the chief arbiter for it. I gotta say, Akash is playing some really clutch chess here, honestly. Oh, Will won.
What?
Will won. So all we need is a draw from Akash.
Oh, there we go. And that happened out of sight. So Will comes back and ties his match. I think he was down 2-0 in his match as well, right?
He was. What a great comeback by Will Aramil of Dynamic Chess. Fantastic game. Look at this. He just breaks down the blockade, no problem.
So
now I'm curious.
That guarantees at least a tie for USA, right? So now
no, if Akash loses, we still lose, right?
No, because now it's 6-5.
Oh, okay. So we are now in guaranteed tied match territory.
Right. So Akash only needs to draw, right? Does Akash know you only need to draw? No, and I don't think anyone's going to tell him.
No, I don't even know if we're allowed to tell him.
Let me change the score here. So USA picked up a tie in the Will against Trisha match.
What is Akash doing with his knight? Maybe he knows he only needs a draw now.
I'm not sure.
And he's just going to go knight d6 to e8 to d6 to e8. I cannot believe Will pulled that out after being down 2-0. Congratulations to Infinite Adaption, aka National Master William Aramil. Nice comeback.
And the Irish captain is stating in the chat, definitely not
allowed. Okay, Jerry, we won't tell Akash anything. We're just going to let him play and see what happens. Oh, he just messed up, actually. He shouldn't have allowed the king to the square, right?
What? Can you imagine if he goes on to lose this?
Well, then we get our bullet playoff.
Right.
It's very hard to lose this with your king here, though.
We were just saying how clutch everything was going. Yeah, I mean, the pawns just can't go.
After we just do all of those compliments about how clutch Akash has been. Oops, I did something wrong. I'm sorry. Let me get it back up.
Oh, that's just open up another board, please.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. We'll do that, and
there
we'll do that.
Go. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Everything looks good again.
Yeah, so this is welcome to Drawville, which means I think the match is secure. I don't see a way. I guess you could play h6, huh?
If this finishes in a tie, then USA will win the match 6.5, 5.5, which, given where the match situation was at one stage, I mean, it was looking like
we might lose.
Yeah, I mean, we USA was up 4-0, and then Ireland fought back to 4-4. And it looked like Ireland was in the driver's seat, basically.
Actually, you can't take this pawn.
Yeah, the knight's too far away.
Mm-hmm. But Akash realizes that and prepares to advance.
Yeah, you're not going to get that B pawn too far down the board, though. Okay, yeah, you got to get the knight back to round up the G4 and the H5 pawn, right? Use the knight to do that.
I would think so. But if b4 here, there's bishop e6. Yeah, so he can't play b4. Right. I don't think this is a win anymore for black, but I also don't think it's anything more than a draw. Yeah, there goes his b pawn. King c5. I guess he could play knight c7 here, and this is actually very instructive. Knight versus lone king. The knight always wants to defend the pawn from the back. Because if the king goes and takes it, the pawn runs, right? Now, we don't have a lone king because there's still a bishop on the board. Right. Don't lose on time, Akash.
I guess you can always lose on time, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like White's happy to take a draw in this position. Maybe White's not aware of the match situation either.
White could also take the pawn and make him play the...
So remember, there is a 10-second increment here, so the chances of losing on time are very much more limited with that 10-second increment. I would hope.
Yeah, I would hope as well. This is looking like a draw by repetition here. Although he could try a trick. Could he try knight d3, king takes a5, knight e5, and pick up that bishop? Actually, He could try knight d3 trick and see if white will take the pawn. He's going to try it, because the point is knight e5. If he takes the pawn, knight e5 covers c6 as well. But white is not going to fall for any of those shenanigans. Can you play b4 here? No one's going to try it. Bishop a4, bishop g4, bishop c2.
I love the way these two are probably just playing on, blissfully unaware of what sort of match.
Well, yeah, they have no idea that the match, all we need is a draw, and they're just like, nope.
Right. And I think you're at a point where you can take that g-pawn now, right?
I think so.
The knight can work his way back to cover h8. Unless you're trying to win, in which case you're not going to take.
This or this should just resolve all the problems, right? Yeah, and now you can't hold the pawn. Well, he's trying really hard to lose the game.
Well, what about knight? Bishop takes d3. Oh, bishop c2. Here. Yeah, and then the pawn queens, right? No, because you play bishop c4,
here,
b2,
and it's just a draw. Yeah.
Bishop a2, and then...
Well, Akash is in no danger of losing, but he's trying really hard to give us heart attacks.
Bishop
yeah,
a2.
now we're in welcome to draw.
And if you just queen, it's complete draw, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is all we needed, so that's good.
Right. Take on g4.
Now just don't pre-move something silly here. All right, what a finish. We got great excitement all throughout the match, Chris, I think.
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic match. Oh yeah, a bit right down to the end. It was nail biting, all the way to the end. So let me just update the scores here real quick.
Amadeus Burrito says Akash is pulling a Giri, snatching a draw from the jaws of a win. I don't know if you're familiar. Did you see the Carlson tweet the other day?
No, I didn't. No. Well, I mean, I've seen various Carlson tweets, but is there one in particular?
There was one. Yeah, there was one. He said it was the game. I believe it was Giri Grishuk, where Giri was up 2 pawns in an endgame, and it ended up being a draw. And Carlson tweeted something to the effect of what Amadeus Burrito said in the chat, snatching a draw from the jaws of victory. I think it was.
All right, so there's the final match score up on the screen: 6.5, 5.5. Let's go to the scoreboard and check out the full match scores, which should be accurate, I believe. So there we go. So as you can see, USA won on board 1. We had a tie on board 2. USA won on board 3. Ireland won on boards 4, 5, 6, and 7. Another tie on board 8. And then USA took boards 9, 10, and 11. So the bottom boards belong to the USA a little bit. The top boards a little bit slanted in USA's, and the middle of the batting order there was all Ireland's in a way. So yeah. Oh, sorry. The other. Yeah. No, that's right. So yeah. So it was. And the final match score was 6.5, 5.5. So we did not need the bullet playoff. So that's the match. Pete.
Yeah. That was awesome. I gotta say that was awesome. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know we'd have that much excitement and intrigue. Really, every single match was close and fun to follow, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was only a couple of matches that went. I think there was one that went 3-0,
right.
And they played a fourth game. There was a couple of 2.5 halves, but 2 of those, one in either team's favor. But most of the matches all went down to they got all 4 games in, and went down to the wire. And especially as USA pulled away, even though it was 4-0 up,
never felt comfortable.
The match was never really that. Swinging that much in US's favor. Ireland always had an edge on enough boards to cover that deficit at one stage, and but managed to pull it out in the end thanks to this draw and William managing to come through and winning his round 4 game to tie his personal match, Will Aramil. So yeah, it was a fun match, and very, very well played both teams. Extremely close, but that was the whole idea of the teams that we had and picking the players that we had. It seems it all worked out well. I don't know how your ringers eventually did, but
not so great. Well, a couple of them did well. Julian won his match. Gunnar won his match. Gopal lost his match. I think it was just that last game. The early blunder did him in.
So maybe Ireland also had some ringers in there.
They did. It looks like, yeah.
But no, this was great and fascinating match, and well done to both teams, and congratulations to USA and commiserations to Ireland. But well played.
Yes, very well played, and a special thank you. I want to just mention Jerry Graham again, the organizer of the Irish team. Special thank you to him for helping us put this together. It was great to work with him, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
There we go. Is that it? We're out?
We're out. That's it. Chris, thanks for being here with me today. I appreciate your captaining of the show. I hope you had a good time.
Yep, it was fantastic. Thank you much for inviting me, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching all the action. It was fun stuff. So just quickly, just before we leave, I do want to mention for any US chess members in the stream, we've got the Get US Chess campaign going on right now between June 24th and June 30th. If you have social media accounts, please go ahead and use Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Use the hashtag GetUSChess. Tell us why you're a US Chess member. I'm a US Chess member because, fill in the blank, and you get a chance to win a $50 gift card or a tap and set chess clock. So do that all via our social media. Thanks a lot for everyone for tuning in for us. It's been a blast being with you, and great action. Thanks to Pete and thanks to Jerry for sorting up the teams and setting up the match. I look forward to next time I catch you all. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.